Hello. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Although technically Halloween is over now. So I hope the Halloween was happy when it did happen. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I am. Yeah. I am. That's because it's Halloween. It was Halloween. I'm gonna tell scary stories now. It's the perfect time to tell scary stories when everyone should be asleep. It's the perfect time. Hello, Fireball. How are you this night? Did you get up to Halloween shenanigans? I hope you did. I hope you tell me about them. Did you dress up? Did you have candy? Pumpkin soup? Yum. Yum. I want pumpkin soup. I carved myself a Nommster. I carved a Nommster out of a pumpkin. I did. It's my best work. Let me find it, actually. I'll find you, Nommster. I'll share it with you. Save image. I can share. Got lots left over. Yum! Yum. Alright. I carved this. Look at it in all its glory. I was the one that carved this. So yeah, it's a Nommster. I may pass out, but I am here. Hello, Max. Welcome. Happy Halloween. Do you like my pumpkin? I just finished having crepes. I had crepes. Yeah. We went on our Halloween adventures, and then we went to Denny's, and we had food because I was hungry, and I encouraged gremlinness from everyone. So we had some yummy breakfast for dinner, and now I'm home. It's now November. It is. It's Nommvember. That makes it sound like I have special plans for this month. I don't. Don't get excited. There are no special plans. Other than the karaoke stream. But I don't know when that's going to happen, because I still got to prepare for it. It'll happen sometime this month. Hydrate. All I have is juice that's warm and has bugs in it, and mold. Oh no. Oh, the bugs are kind of still alive. Okay, I gotta get a drink, apparently. After Spooky Adventures, Denny's was the place. Yeah. I'll tell you some of our spooky adventures. Because we went around and we went to all the scary houses in town. All of them. And, we saw someone that was dressed like they looked like they were they looked like grass. They looked like they were walking grass. So we wanted to roll down the window and ask, "Are you grass?" That'd be a very strange thing to do. But, like, then for the rest of the night, we just kept repeating, "Are you grass?" And then we saw him again, and we couldn't ask him if he was grass because he took his hat off. So my sister didn't know if he was actually the same guy. But it was the same guy. But then he was already too far away, so we couldn't ask if he was grass. So we don't know if he's grass. Who knows? We can't be sure. And, since I dressed as a character from a game/anime that I hate, and I dressed as a character from that anime/game that I hate, I didn't want anyone to know. Like, if anyone asked me, I said, okay, guys, if anyone asks what I am, I'm a doll. If anyone asks, I'm a doll. Don't say it's from a weird, bad incest anime. Don't say it. I'm a doll. So I just kept talking about how much of a doll I was the whole night. like, oh yes. Look at those decorations. They've got dolls in their yard. You know, dolls like what I am. Or like, I wouldn't know anything about anime outfits because I'm a doll. Definitely not an incest anime. Definitely not. Exactly. And then my mom and my sister were like, well, what if someone recognizes your costume? What if someone knows what you're from? And I'm like, then we have played a game of Spot the Degenerate, and we have won. Love this day for scary stories, but I gotta work in the morning. Night! Thanks for popping in, Fireball. Thank you. Have a good sleep. Enjoy your work tomorrow. And you may catch up on the scary stories another day. Yeah. Anyway. Oh yeah, so we said if anyone recognizes what I'm dressed as, they're a degenerate. So we would play a game of Spot the Degenerate. So we were walking, and then we went to a scary house, and a guy was like looking at me, and I'm like, oh, and he was a little awkward. He was a little bit awkward, and I'm like, did he know? Is that why he was awkward? Did he know? Was I found out? So we weren't sure if he knew or not. But then one person, and this is gonna sound bad, but bear with me. Okay, so she was Asian. So of all the people that have an easier chance of knowing what I'm from, Asian people have a better chance because anime, Japan, yes. But anyway, as I walked by, she went, oh wow, and like had kind of an awkward smile, and I was like, she knows. She knows! I've been found out, she knows! Oh no! Ah! So I think at least one person for sure knew who I was. It'll be our little secret. Gosh. The Halloween party I was supposed to wear my costume got canceled, and I could not wear it to work because of what it was. Can you share? Were you a doll? Wink, wink. Were you a doll? It's going as Axel in Harlem. Axel in Harlem. I'm looking it up. Axel Harlem. Harlem. Lem. Did you put a pillow in your butt? Did you stuff your pants? You have extra cushioning? Dyed my pants purple and used bra pads. Oh, that's great! Ah! You committed! You committed to the bit! 10 out of 10. 8,000 points, Gryffindor. I'm so proud of you. I couldn't wear my costume to work because my work, like, I would have gotten it dirty, and my costume is mostly, like, cream colored, so if I got it dirty, it would show up. It would really show up. So, I instead dressed up as Ash Ketchum for work. And I didn't think anyone would know who I was. But then I went downstairs to the guys, and they were like, ah! And they got really excited. Because they're like, you're Ash! And I was like, yeah! And then one of them said, oh my gosh, I wish I wore my costume. I'm a Kangaskhan. I have the pouch and everything. And I'm like, oh my god, why did you not wear that? I must see that immediately. So then, I thought everyone was going to be looking at me weird for dressing up. But now they were sad. They didn't dress up. So I was like, okay, well now, we know for next year. And you guys have to dress up like I did. We know now. So there you go. Okay. I think it's time. Oh, I work in the public sector with a lot of kids, and I knew some of the nerds would have recognized it. And if not, they would have just appreciated your backside. Because that is a masterful backside. How does that man walk? With difficulty, it looks like. I mean, difficulty or raw talent? I love playing games of Spot the Nerd. I'll wear like a shirt that's like subtly nerdy and see if people recognize it. And if they do, I'll be like, ah, found the nerd. Or like I have a Millennium Puzzle necklace, and it's like a small one, but it's still the Millennium Puzzle. It's unmistakably the Millennium Puzzle from Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I'll wait. And then they'll be like, oh, is that from Yu-Gi-Oh? And I'm like, ah, I found the nerd. I found him. I fall for it every time. Nice. It's good to be a nerd. It's good to know things. Or I'll have my backpack and it'll be covered in pins and stuff. And I'll be like, If anyone recognizes the pins, I found the nerd. Anytime I see someone wearing an anime shirt or a pin, I always comment on it. Nice! I'm of the mindset that if you have a nice comment or just a fun, friendly comment you want to make, I'd do it. Like, people will look at someone and be like, whoa, I really like how they did their makeup. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm gonna tell them. Like, I'm not just gonna think about it, I'm gonna tell them. Or like, I see someone go by, it's like, you look really nice today. And they're like, oh, thank you. And then they just feel good. Like, what? If you have a compliment, give it to someone. If it's a weird compliment, maybe don't. Unless it's like a compliment that's weird, but like in a way that's like good. Like, someone told me once that I have really good balance. And like, I remember that for the rest of my life. They told me that in elementary school. Dating sim gremlin. I arrived to bring a message of kindness. What is your message of kindness? God of good hunters, what have you for us this night? What is the kindness? The best is at the gym when you meet a jacked nerd. I like your teeth. I like them teeth of yours. You got a purty mouth. See, that's an example of a weird comment you don't say to people. Or like, you know, you smell different when you're awake. Yeah, see, that's also another one you shouldn't say. Remember that your life really does matter. Even if there are others that can do what you can, there's still only one of you in this world. Life is truly precious, and you shouldn't underestimate the value you give to this world. Aww, that's very sweet. That is a message of kindness. Thank you. We shall spread the kindness far and wide. All shall have the kindness. And then we'll put it in a box, and we'll save it. And then once we're happy having the kindness, we will pass it on to someone else. And then they will have the kindness. Yeah. I try to post stuff like that sometimes on like Zitter, because I want to make people feel good. Like, sometimes people need a sign, you know? And I like to be that sign if I can be. Like, if you can admire someone today, admire yourself. Whether it be you think you look nice today, or you did a good deed, or you're just living. You're living your life. You exist. Here you are. Look at you go. My old gym shirt was kawaii in the streets, senpai in the sheets. My other was world is an F kill 'em at 1989. I am trash man. 410 billion. 410 billion cops killed with 2 fuzzy animals hugging. Oh my gosh. The dichotomy. The duality of man. Alright. Are we ready for some scary stories? Just actually insanity. Are we ready for scary stories? Are you ready? Are we ready? I'm ready. I've been doing this since June. I basically kick down the door to people's stream, give nice message, then find the next person to give kindness to. Ah, I see. Well, thank you for coming to mine today to do that. I wish you luck in your travels and your kindness spreading. May you find kindness in return, good person. Yes. Kindness for all. Yes! Okay. Scary story time. Scary story. Okay, we're gonna start with a warm-up story. Also, is the music loud enough? Can't hear it. I hear it. It's all like suspenseful and whatnot, and creepy and stuff. Okay, we'll start up with a warm-up story. So of all the stories today, this is the only one I did not write. I would like to credit the person who did write it, but I don't know who it is. So if you know who wrote this, do tell. Alright, here goes. Get ready to get scared. Man and girl go out to drive under moonlight. They stop on a side of road. He turned to his girl and say, "Baby, I love you very much." "What is it, honey?" "Our car is broken down. I think the engine is broken. I'll walk and get some more fuel." "Okay, I'll stay here and look after our stereo." There have been news report of stairs being stolen. Good idea. Keep the doors locked no matter what. I love you, Sweaty. So the guy left to get full for the car. After 2 hours, the girls say, "Where is my baby? He was supposed to be back by now." Then the girl hear a scratching sound and a voice say, "Let me in." The girl doesn't do it, and then after a while she goes to sleep. The next morning, she wakes up and finds her boyfriend still not there. She gets out to check, and man door hand hook car door! Bum bum bum! I've scared lasagna! Classic. I'm so scared, like, ah! You won't be able to sleep tonight. But who was phone? Ah! And then John said, "But I must defeat the demons." And the radio said, "No, John, you are the demons." And then John was a zombie. Okay, we're on to the actual first story. It was society all along. No. We live in a society. Where should I post the Urbex stories? So the thing is, I have a Discord server now, but it kind of sucks. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So, I will give you two options. You can either put it in the chat, or you can send it to me on Zitter because my DMs are open. So it's up to you. I would give you the Discord, but it currently sucks. I didn't think setting up a Discord would be so hard. But here we are. It's apparently very difficult. There's like all this nonsense about permissions and whatnot. And it's like, oh, I thought this thing was already built into Discord. It's like, no, it's not. You have to add stuff, freaking, I don't know, things. Give me Discord. No, it sucks. You'll be able to go in and it'll be like, it's a mess. It's messy in there. It's bad. Jump through these hoops right quick. I'll DM Twitter. Okay. I think I have my Zitter linked somewhere. I don't think I can post it in the chat. I mean, maybe I can, because I'm the person who runs page. Let's see. I'll give it a try. I don't think I can. We'll find out. We're learning. We're growing as people. Okay, there you go. There's my Zitter. If you want to DM me scary stories, I will read them for all. In the meantime, I will read another of the ones I have. This next one, the concept is not mine, but I wrote this still. So the concept is not mine. I didn't come up with it. But I did, like, I did write from this concept. So this is an urban legend. So it doesn't actually have an author. So I just made my own version. Send it. Okay. Okay, maybe we'll do that first then. We'll read that one first. Okay. Here goes. Oh, making weird noises again. Okay. Send it. Oh, there you are. Okay. We're gonna read Max's story. There's 3 of them. Okay, we'll read the first one first. We'll read the first one. We'll go yours, mine, yours, mine, yours, mine. Well, that's what we'll do. Okay. This is the first story. You didn't give them titles. For shame. Okay, this is Max's story. So, when Max was in high school... No, I'll just read it. I'll read it how it's written. When I was in high school, my buddy lived in a haunted house. Not an aggressive ghost, but there was something there. He filled the basement with mirrors because his dad didn't want anything able to sneak up on him, and frequently, his bedroom door in the basement would open and close by itself. Isn't that always the way with basements? It's always the creepiest part of the house. I live in a basement. I was a witness to it happening, and I genuinely thought it was a prank, but then I walked around and it closed while I was out of the room. Back in the TeamSpeak days, he left town to visit family in the country. We picked up voices on his microphone. It sounded like a couple arguing quietly in the next room. Ooh. We ended up calling him and asking where he was to confirm, only to have him and both his parents confirm they were not in the city. We ended up sending a friend who had a spare key to check, and confirmed the house was empty. Still no explanation. Dun dun dun. 100% true. It's always the arguing voices. Like the ghosts don't know how to keep their private business private. That was good. That was interesting. Spooky goings on. There's actually... Oh, as a basement lover, I feel for Max. I live in a basement too. It's currently very cold. I'm all wrapped up in a blanket because I'm cold. There's this show, and it's the weirdest thing ever. So what they'll do is, it's like a paranormal activity show, right? So, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but basically what they'll do is they'll talk about the house, they'll talk about, like, what spiritual activity has been going on. And, they'll say, like, what the history, or, yeah, they'll say what the history of the people that live there, and stuff like that. And then, they'll have, their investigators go in and start investigating and talking to the people and seeing, like, what's scary about their house. And then they'll have a building inspector come in and check around to see if he can find a factual cause for the haunting. So, like, for example, people were seeing things, or doors were opening on their own, or there was a shadow that looked like a person walking by, like, stuff like that. And then the building inspector guy would come in and he'd be like, okay, this door has been improperly installed. As you can see here and here, this is not installed properly. So that's why it's opening and closing on its own, because whenever the temperature changes, it opens more because it's at a slant. Or about the one where it was about the shadow, he's like, this one's really interesting because you can only see it in a particular time of day depending on where the sun is, so it might seem like a ghost. But there's actually a very subtle indentation in the wall here, and that's why it looks like there's a ghost there. And it's like, oh my gosh, he's just debunking everything. The best one was, he discovered that they actually had a gas leak, and the reason they were seeing things was because of, I think it was, like, because of the gas, like it was poisoning them or something. So he's like, okay, I'm so glad we did the inspection here because you guys could have died from this. And it's like, what? But the weirdest part of all is like, okay, well, they had the investigators come in, they talked about the ghosts, then they disproved the ghosts, and then they have like a psychic come in at the end and like communicate with the ghosts. And it's like, well, what is it? Like the building inspector just told us it wasn't ghosts, and now you're telling us it is ghosts. And you're saying all this fun stuff about how, like, oh, I'm asking these questions because I hear the voice of a little girl. And then it's like, oh, our psychic knows nothing about the history of this house. But there was a little girl that died here. It's like, how can I believe what you're saying? You just told us, like, 10 minutes ago that this isn't haunted. The psychics are always funny. They are. It's great. I love ghost shows like that. They're always a fun time. They're always a fun time. The only thing I don't like about, like, true crime or, like, ghost shows or whatever is when they don't treat, like, victims of things as people. Like, they just treat them as, like, oh, this is so crazy. Like, listen to all these terrible things that happen to these people. Wow. It's like, no. Give them some respect. Maybe tell us some more about them. Maybe stop sensationalizing the killer. Can we talk about the victims a bit more? Like, I have some compassion. Real people died. But yeah, that's all I don't like. Ghost Flippers. I love that show. I'm sure they'll sell that house eventually. I don't know if that's the one, but that sounds right. Ghost Adventures is the best and worst. Yes. Agreed. It's so dumb. So dumb. Yeah, agreed. Also, Lasagna Fiend, if you... That's funny. Your name is Lasagna Fiend, and I've labeled you as Fiends in the chat. It's perfect. You were made for this chat. But yeah, Lasagna Fiend, if you want to send me any scary stories, you can also do so as well. If you'd like. I will read them. I will. Nothing profane, though. No sexy stories. I don't need to know about you and the ghost having a good time. See what I got. Okay. I'm gonna read the next one that I have. So it's, like I said, it's an urban legend. You might have heard of this one before. But yeah, it's an urban legend. And I just rewrote it because I wanted to... I didn't have any other original form of it, so I rewrote it. Alright, here goes. Can't believe Dan Aykroyd DM'd you. What? He did not. Don't lie. Alright, here goes. Claimed to have banged a ghost. Oh. Would he be the one banging or the ghost? Never mind. We're gonna move on. Okay. It was late in the evening when Barbara had finally started heading home from the family reunion. She had planned to leave earlier, but was having such a fun time that she didn't realize how late it had gotten. Barbara was a naturally nervous woman, always being cautious, especially when traveling alone, so the thought of driving half an hour in the dark through the back roads to get home was very unappealing. She decided to take the highway route, which added an extra half hour to her drive time, but felt a lot more safe. She steeled herself and just tried to think about her fiancé, who would be waiting for her back home. He was unable to attend the reunion due to work commitments. As she peeled out of the cul-de-sac, Barbara began to follow her GPS to the nearest gas station, not keen on running out of gas before a long trip. The only gas station on her way gave her a bad feeling the minute it came into sight. The lights above the fuel tanks were flickering, and the only other vehicle was a large semi-truck with a gigantic A logo on the side. It was parked off to the edge of the station, bathed entirely in shadows. It took Barbara a good few minutes before she reluctantly pulled in beside a gas tank. Barbara hesitated to get out of the car, her bad feelings growing with each passing moment. Even so, she quickly got out of her car after turning it off, then began to fill it up. That was when the driver of the semi-truck stepped out of his vehicle. She could feel his eyes locked on her, and it sent a shiver down her spine. Barbara focused solely on the gas pump, trying to ignore the man, but his eyes were practically burning a hole through her. She let herself steal a glance, and got a good look at the man. He was tall and broad, and she could see his piercing eyes looking at her from the shadow of the baseball hat he had firmly planted on his head. He was an older-looking man, with a thick white and gray beard. Her goosebumps turned to full-on shivers when she saw the expression on his face. He looked angry, and his eyes were slightly wild. When he started to walk towards her, she knew she had to get out of there. She paid for the gas faster than she ever had before, then removed the pump from her car. The man began to pick up the pace towards her, uttering a curse under his breath. Barbara slipped into the car just as the man came into the light, and she floored the gas pedal, speeding out of the station. Her heart was still racing as she drove onto the highway, but the danger was over. She couldn't imagine what that man would have done to her if he'd caught up to her, and she didn't want to try. The highway was uncharacteristically empty, and that did make her scary night just a little scarier, but her heart slowly returned to a regular rhythm. Then she saw the headlights appear behind her, from a semi-truck with a large A logo on the side. The man was following her. She tried not to panic. Maybe they were going the same way. It was the highway after all, and it would really be the only route for a semi-truck to realistically take. But Barbara rationalized to herself that maybe he was just angry before about her pulling in for gas when he might have been waiting. Just then, the semi-truck flared its brights. The light reflected off of her mirrors, temporarily blinding her and making her swerve a bit on the road. A few cars drove by the two of them, and one of them honked their horn at Barbara. She tried to focus on her driving and ignore his proximity to her, and luckily he turned his brights off after a few minutes passed. Things seemed peaceful when they were a respectable distance apart for a time, but just as before, The truck pulled closer and flared its brights again. 40 minutes passed like this. The truck would lay off a bit, then come in closer and flare its brights, then back off again. Barbara had had enough the closer she got home, so against her better judgment, she called her fiancé and frantically explained the situation. He tried to reassure her that it was the highway, and once she turned off to head home, he would stop following her. He knew about her tendency to over-worry and over-analyze, and just hearing his voice alone calmed her down a little bit. That calmness was gone the moment the truck driver honked his horn at her, making her scream in fright and drop her phone. She saw the turn into the road that would lead her home, and she turned hard, hoping that would be enough to lose the man. The idea that he would follow her that far made her blood run cold. She didn't dare look behind her as her tires finally came to a screeching halt. Her fiancé was at the door with his phone, ready and waiting to welcome her back. But his expression changed from a friendly smile to a look of concern when, sure enough, the truck rolled up to their house. Barbara screamed again and ran out of the car to her fiancé's waiting arms. He held her close, now glaring daggers at the truck driver, parked and began getting out of the vehicle. "Out!" the driver screamed, brandishing a pistol. "Please, no!" Barbara shrieked, closing her eyes tightly as her fiancé pulled her behind him for protection. "Get out of there!" But the driver didn't approach Barbara or her fiancé. He was walking toward the car, gun drawn and pointing at it. To the horror of the onlooking couple, a man rose up from the back seat, raising his hands above his head. He slowly crawled from behind the driver's seat and stumbled out of the car, where the truck driver pinned him down by the knee, kicking aside the knife the man had held in his hand. "Call the cops! This guy crawled into your back at the gas station! Been flashing my brights every time he tried anything!" Barbara had been in real danger the entire time, but her concerns were about the wrong person. The man had with him a knife, zip ties, and a camera. The truck driver she was so terrified of had saved her life that night. Dun dun dun! And scene! Have you guys heard of that one before? 'Cause like I said, it's an urban legend. I rewrote it when I was a kid. Why do I have chills? I really, really like this urban legend a lot. Because it's so real. Like, this could just happen. This could just happen to anyone driving. Like, it absolutely could. Never heard that one. Very nice. Yeah! It's the ones that are not about some otherworldly being, but they're just about people. My buddy told me that in grade 5. Your buddy is mean. Oh, I can't talk, though. I'm kind of mean, too. Here's a brief story about, so my friends and I were watching The Grudge, which is a good movie. I would recommend it. I've watched both versions. I've watched Ju-on The Grudge, and I've watched The Grudge remake. We were watching it, and there's a scene that takes place in the closet. The creature pulls someone into the closet. So, what they were wanting to get blankets, but the blankets were in their closet, so none of them wanted to go into the closet to get them because they were all scared. And I'm really hard to scare, so I was totally cool getting blankets. So I went over to the closet and I'm like, you guys are all babies. There's nothing, ah! And then I pretended that something pulled me into the closet, and everyone screamed. It was so funny. Then I took the blankets out and I threw them at them. It's like, there's nothing in, ah! Oh, they hated me. They were so mad. They're like, we should lock you outside in the dark. I'm like, ah, do it. You won't. Cowards. The one that scared me the most was the angel statue. The angel statue? You mean like in Doctor Who? That was terrifying. There was another urban legend about it. Oh. I've never heard about that one. Have you guys heard of Clap Clap Slide? Does that sound familiar to you? It's also Clap Clap Grind or Clap Clap Scrape. Like it's Clap Clap something. I'm more partial to Clap Clap Slide. Yeah. There's a lot of good urban legends. But that's not what this one's about. We'll probably maybe I'll do another stream about urban legends. I don't know. It's tougher to do like Like, I like to do original stuff. I don't like to take from stuff that already exists. This one story was just a exception to the rule. Okay, let's read Max's next story. Alright, here we go. The next Max story. Scooby-Doo Mystery. Whoa, this one has a name. On the outskirts of the city, there was an abandoned concrete factory compound. Had a few buildings on the land. Me and a few friends decided to do some exploring. We bought flashlights and went out. We checked the first building, which was a lunchroom, locker, and shower house. The basement was completely flooded, and it was being in the middle of winter. The basement was a block of ice. We checked it out, and from the windows we could hear whistling, unlike the wind and unlike a person. We left the first building, and I was the last one out. I heard footsteps walking behind me as we walked out of the front door. This scared us a tad, but we pressed on. We ended up checking out the main building, no safety rails, pitch black and stark empty. About 5 floors. Nothing on them. Checked it from the bottom to the top, and it was only one door. We got to the top and found nothing. Graffiti and trash, but all the halls were empty and the rooms were empty. We ended up getting to the bottom. I live by the leave nothing but footprints, Urbex mindset, and saw my buddy reach for a start button on the wall. I said, "Don't," and he pressed it anyway. Immediately our other friend said, "Shut up, turn off your lights." And on the floor we were just on, we heard clear as day, work boots walking. No light, no voices, just the stark sound of heavy boots walking above. The door opened and shut, and we bolted the heck out. We were scared silly. We went to the car, just us, no cops, no one else. Despite our better judgment, we decided to continue. My friend started making a whew sound. He said he could hear an owl calling. No one else could hear it. We didn't think much of it. We checked out a silo, then a power shed, and we even found a cool trashed motorcycle in the field. We walked away back to our car, and we were all taken off guard by the sound of an owl. It said it was 10 times as loud and 5 times as fast, like nothing I'd ever heard before. We bolted to my car, and I literally threw my buddy in the back seat and started the car. Drove away at an unsafe speed. The factory was torn down shortly thereafter. Oh, snap! Oh, snap. Ah, those boots! The ghosts heard you. They're like, "You pressing buttons in there, chillins? You causing mayhem? You pressing buttons?" You went to Denny's after. Nice. Good, yes. Awesome. That's good. That's a nice one. Very spooky. I wonder if the owl was just the ghost messing with you. Woo, woo, woo! You'd say the only door up there led off the side of the building. Oh. So only a ghost could get up there. Ghost. Only a ghost. No one else, only ghosts. Only ghosts allowed. Alright. I'm gonna tell my next one. Okay. Oh. Also the angel creepypasta. Okay, you can send that to me if you like. Oh, head pats! Thank you! Hello, Chromatic Era. Oh, thank you for the head pats. I'm all cozy and I'm getting head pats. Tonight's the best night ever. Hello, Chromatic Ada. Is it Ada or is it Ida? Or is it Edda? Happy Halloween! How do I say your name? Edda. Okay, Edda. Hello, Edda. Happy Halloween. We're telling scary stories. If you have a scary story you want to share, you can DM me on Twitter if you want. I have posted my Twitter profile. I'll post it again. Oh, just kidding, I won't. Twitch is like, no. I will post my favorite spooky story. Okay, cool. Yes. Yes, share. And I will read my next story in the meantime. So there's a little warning for this one. This is a true story. This is a story from me. And it's very unsettling. It's not a ghost story. Because something that's scarier than ghosts is living people. Alright, here we go. Prepare yourselves. This one is a true story that happened to me about 2 years ago. I wouldn't say it's a ghost story, but something much, much scarier, and I still live in the same place where it happened. One night, at about 2 a.m., I was sitting in my bed and watching videos on my laptop that I had propped up flat on my chest. I'm a night owl, duh, so I sometimes stay up way too late, usually on random YouTube rabbit hole dives. I'll be learning about how horror movies do their special effects, or the history of Parmesan cheese, or some other weird deep dive. Anyway, the layout of the room is important for my story. You guys can actually see part of my room in my homeroom screen, so use that as a reference. My bed is against the wall, and the window is directly behind the head of my bed. Since I'm in the basement, the window is accessible pretty easily from one of the pathways at the side of the house, but there is a fence between the pathway and the sidewalk. I always keep the window locked and the blinds drawn, but my room can still easily be seen into when it's nighttime, even through the blinds. I don't usually consider this a problem. So I'm watching videos when suddenly I hear something directly behind my head. It sounds like someone walking on the path outside. I don't think much of it because I don't live alone. My landlord lives upstairs, or sometimes her guests or house sitters are upstairs. I figure one of them is just getting fresh air. I turn off my bedside table and continue watching the videos, my room now only lit up by the light of my laptop. A few minutes later, I hear the sound again. This time it's completely clear that it's coming from right outside my window. The plants around my window have been shifted. I'm concerned, but figure it might be the neighborhood cats. There's a lot of them, and they often just wander around the yard. But then I remember I have a mirror across from my bed. Now that my lights are off, the street lights are easier to see from inside my dark room. And in the mirror, I can see the shadow of a person leaning outside of my window, looking inside. I pause. The video is still playing on my laptop as I stare at the shadow in my window. Someone is kneeling, not standing, looking directly inside my room, and the only thing you can see from that angle in the window is me in my bed. I worry that if I react in a major way, the person will be spooked or maybe try something drastic. I very slowly close my laptop, pretending I haven't noticed them. I set it down beside my bed, then sink into my covers, staring at the shadow in the window. I'm practically willing this person to go away at this point. Should I have called the authorities? Probably. But who knows what might have happened if I tried it with the person literally watching me do it. Eventually, the shadow disappeared. The person wasn't watching me anymore. I could not sleep for the rest of the night. In the morning, I checked to see if the plants were really moved, and they were. So yeah, that's a real-life thing. Your future boyfriend! Or boyfriend. Welcome to the gremlin pile. So yeah, that was a true story. That actually happened. I need to get curtains for my room so that it doesn't happen again. I should really get curtains. Literally, for all I know, they could be watching me right now. So yeah, I need curtains. I should invest in that, like, tomorrow. So yeah, I'll see if anyone else sent anything. Alright. Oh, I got a link. Got a link. This is a classic. Okay, my only concern about this is that it's not yours. So I don't technically have permission to read this. I don't really want to read other people's stuff that's not the actual people that's here without asking first. I think it's a public domain story. Oh, is it? Okay, well, let's... Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, you're right. No, it doesn't need to be yours. I can read this. If it's public domain, that's fine. Yeah. I enjoy my blackout curtains. I should enjoy those too. Maxwell the car? Maxwell, you never told me you were a car. That would have been nice to know. Then I can imagine all these urban explorer stories that you're telling me with you as a car. Okay, let's read this one. This one's from Chromatic Edda. Beep, beep. Okay. It's from urbanlegendsandhorror.com, and it's called... Actually, no, let's not read the title, because that'll give it away. Okay. Actually a bear. Shh, don't tell. Okay, I won't say it. It's not like you typed it in a chat with 4 other people reading it. Okay, here goes. 2 girls that went to the same college were matched together as roommates. Kate was a socialite who loved to go out to parties and loved guys even more. Jen was a shying wallflower who kept to her studies and had a small group of friends. The 2 got along most of the time, but they didn't see eye to eye when it came to visitors staying over in their room. That night, there was a dorm party on the floor above that they had been invited to. Jen had quickly made her excuses to not go, whilst Kate, never one to miss out on a good party, had been planning her outfits since they'd been invited. After the last classes of the day, both girls were in the room. Kate had music playing as she was getting ready for the party, and Jen was in her books studying. A rapid knock on the door alerted them both. Almost as soon as the knocking had stopped, the door burst open, and a group of girls fell in the room laughing. Kate's friends had come round to get ready as a group. Rolling her eyes, Jen picked up her books and declared that she was retreating to the library to continue her studies. Jen sat herself in her favorite comfy chair in the library and began reading her books. Students came and went throughout the night, and when she finally closed her books, it was close to 2 a.m. Shocked that the time had passed so quickly, she gathered her things and began walking back to her room. As she approached her room door, she could hear people inside, sighing. She opened the door and left the light off. She'd gotten an eyeful on plenty of occasions when she'd interrupted Kate and her date getting amorous in bed. "Nice to know you enjoyed yourself," Jen said. The motion stopped briefly, and then carried on again. Annoyed that her roommate was ignoring her, she changed into her pajamas and climbed into bed. With the noises carrying on, she turned on her MP3 player and turned the volume up loud. Quickly, she fell asleep. The next morning, she woke to find her MP3 player tangled in her pillow. Picking it up to unravel it, she turned over to scold Kate for her amorous actions the night before. As she turned over, she dropped her music player and screamed. Kate was lying in a pool of blood with her sheets over the floor. On the wall, written in blood, were the words, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the lights?" Hehehehe. That's great. Good, good, good. Good. Also happy lurking, boyfriend. For this book. Oh, scary, oh! Ah! Ah! That's a humans can lick too ending. Agreed! Agreed. Dun, dun, dun! Horror creatures always go for the promiscuous ones. That's just always the case. They find people that are having a good time and then they just murk them. Humans Can Look Too is another classic, yeah. Oh, yes. Yes, I know this one well. Have neither of you heard of Click, Clap, Clap, Slide? That's also a classic. Maybe it's like a Canadian classic. Clap, clap, slide. Clap, clap, slide. That's why all the characters in classic horror are insufferable horny teens. Yeah. I haven't heard of that. Can we do that one? I'll have to see if I can remember it, because I heard it when I was little, and that's as far as I remember. Wow, wow, wow. Wow. Have you heard of it, Maxwell? Spooky stories to tell in the dark in haunted Canada were my childhood. I actually have spooky stories to tell in the dark. I have both of them. I could have read them, but I didn't really want to because it's not public domain, so I felt bad. Nommle fangs are very good. Thank you. Look at them. I can show them off. Also not public domain, but did you ever read Goosebumps? Yeah! I love the Goosebumps books. The, mask? I forget what it's called, but like the one with the mask that they made a movie out of? That was a legitimately scary movie. I liked it a lot. Did you ever read Midnight Library? No, I haven't. Have you tried two-sentence horror? Yes, I have heard some. Like the one where it's like... a mom hears her child crying out for her or downstairs. Or no. Mom hears her child crying out for her. Yeah, downstairs. She goes to check her in the room, and she sees her child under her bed, and her child says, "Don't go, Mom. I heard it too." I like that one. I told it wrong, but I like that one a lot. Most of them give me chills. I have a 2-word... This one's from Tumblr. There's a 2-worded scary story for you. Carpeted kitchen. Carpeted kitchen! Carpeted kitchen! Carpeted kitchen! Ah! No! How about this? Yeah! Carpeted bathroom! Ah! Jail! Immediately jail! Immediately! You have a short story? Okay, share it. You can either send it to my Twix/Twitter thing, or you can post it in here. That's fine. Also, hello, Adrian. Welcome. We're reading scary stories. My parents had that. Oh, yeah, those poor souls. Yes. And, I do have a very long story that I wrote that I want to read at the end, so... Yeah. It's very long, but, like, I poured all my heart and soul in it, so I want you guys to hear it. It's long. It's long. A Nommle original. Yeah, a bunch of these that I'm reading today are Nommle originals. When I was born, I was a baby. Oh no! No! Oh no! Babies are terrifying! Crunchy bite and soft food. No! No! Soggy cereal. Orange juice. After brushing your teeth. We love creativity like that. Writing is an undervalued art. Okay, well I'll read the next one that I wrote. This is also a true story. A bunch of mine are true stories, by the way. Soggy cereal is delicious. I'll die on this hill. It depends on the cereal. Some is great, others is not. Okay. Okay, here's the next one. Here's another true story, but it happened to an old roommate of mine. I lived in a different house, and my roommate lived in the basement. He had gone out in the middle of the day with some friends to a place in our city that was once a sanatorium that was later converted into an asylum for the mentally unstable. It's actually blocked off from the public unless you're part of a tour that was signed off on by the city. The general reason is because it's really run down. Since a lot of the area hasn't been used for much of anything for a very long time. There's also like a catacomb system underneath the main area of this sanatorium. So like the buildings were connected underground to one another. So they have guided tours through there, but it's not safe to travel on your own without permission or with a guided tour. Yeah, so there wasn't much that was used for anything for a very long time, but some believe that it's also haunted. I went there once with a friend where an escape room was being held, because why not host an escape room in a supposedly haunted building that used to be a sanatorium? But that escape room situation was fine, and I didn't have any ghostly experiences there. The only odd or unsettling thing was that the place was generally very quiet. Like, dead quiet at times. And it's like as soon as we left, the sound of the world came flooding back. No. What happened was that while my roommate and his friends were exploring the sanatorium grounds, they heard what he could only describe as the most inhuman, most terrifying sound he'd ever heard in his life. He said it was some kind of scream, and that whatever made the sound had pursued him and his friends all the way out of the property until they eventually lost it. I found him in the common room, looking spooked and trying to search up what on earth that sound could have been. He figured it was some kind of animal, but he was terrified to learn that he couldn't match the sound with any animal he'd researched. He said to me, "I have no idea what that thing was." I smiled at him and said, "Don't worry. You'll find out when you hear it outside of your window tonight." He threw a pillow at my face while I cackled. I definitely deserved that. He did not, in fact, hear it outside of his room. So yeah, I'm kind of the worst. Just a little bit the worst. But yeah, no, he never did figure out what that sound was. I'm very curious. I was like, maybe it's a bobcat. They make pretty wild noises, but we looked up bobcat noises and it definitely wasn't that. Well, at least he said it wasn't that. I didn't hear the creature, so I don't know. Okay. That was my next story. Again, another real story. Okay, let's read another of... maybe a humanoid deer. Oh, maybe. Maybe it's Deer God from, Deer Lord from Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion, yeah. Okay. We're gonna read... we're gonna read Max's next one. Oh, wow, okay. This is also to do with sanatoriums. Nice. The sanatorium. Me and the same crew decided to check out the old sanatorium about 45 minutes out of our city. It was a location my grandfather stayed at when he had tuberculosis. We checked the lodge on the outskirts, which was built for nurses to stay in. Dilapidated, but the main hall and fireplace was intact. It was actually pretty cool to just see these large, empty halls. The bathrooms were surprisingly clean despite the years of disuse. We continued to the main building where we found a giant hall, larger than a school gymnasium, massive pillars on every side, and a pentagram in the middle. For some reason, this room in particular made me feel like I was intruding on a meeting of some kind. A pentagram! You know, run-of-the-mill pentagram. Every house has one. If you don't have one, what's wrong with you? You're the weird one. Like there were invisible people standing in a circle who were unhappy I was there. We left to the next floor shortly after. On the next floor, we found bunk bed frames lining the hallway. Not much of note beside the decision to split our group into two in the next floor. The next floor, we found a room with a chair, covered with white, tiny handprints, and a photo we took captured a dark figure at the end of the hallway. If I can find them, I'll post them. We ended up getting to the top of the building and found an elevator shaft that led onto another floor. I personally didn't go into it, but my friend said it led into a kitchen area. We continued and ended up finding an attic area, and it had the names of everyone who had also explored the building. It was like a Resident Evil safe room. We also left a signature of our group in that room. Nothing particularly strange happened, but it was a cool experience. Oh, nice! So aside from the pentagram with which to summon demons, it was just a fun, interesting experience. Well, clearly it wasn't the same sanatorium that my friend went to. Clearly. That would be wild, though, if that was. Like, damn. What are the chances of that? Okay. Let me see what else we got. Okay. Who knows? Okay, I'm gonna read my next one I have. This is another one that I wrote. And again, it's another true story. The very last one I read will not be a true story, but most of these are true stories. Here's another true story, though the details aren't as clear to me because it was a while ago. If you're in the chat, my sister, she's not in the chat, she's sleeping. Correct me if you remember anything differently. Well, she can't do that because she's sleeping. We lived in an apartment-style building with very tiny rooms. I was really young, around the age of 5 or 6. The door we left our building from was the back door, so it led into an alleyway. This wasn't the best side of town, so there were a few rundown buildings attached to this alley, but the one directly across from us was a building that we called Haunted. It was an old home that was definitely falling apart. The windows were practically always open. I'm not even sure if it had actual glass windows. But the little details like that are harder to remember for sure. My sister and my stepsister at the time would play around in the back, and every now and then we'd look out the haunted house and I would kind of zone out just staring at it. One day I was playing by myself on a bike in the back area, and I saw a car parked outside of the haunted house. It was a black van, so I got pretty suspicious. It wasn't long before two men, also wearing black, left out of the house. I became even more suspicious, assuming they were spies or something, so I quietly watched. They stayed in the van a while, then left not long after. I remember that the door had been left open to the house. I was dumb and curious, so I walked over to the house and right onto the property. I don't even fully remember why I thought that was a good idea. I guess I'd watched that one episode, The Adventures of Mary-Kate and Ashley, too many times. I walked onto the wooden step that was hardly there and stood in the doorway looking inside. It was falling apart inside with a wooden staircase that was partially collapsed. I remember there wasn't any furniture and I couldn't see any lights inside. One detail that stood out to me was that I distinctly remember there were pearls on the floor by the stairs. I remembered they were pearls because my mom had some pearl earrings and she showed me, and she told me how pearls were made. I felt the wind pick up behind me, and I got a little spooked, so I hurried back home to go inside. I later told my sisters about the men in the van, and I remember my stepsister said it was creepy, but maybe they owned the building. I didn't tell them that I went to look inside the building because I didn't want to get in trouble. Another day, when we were all in the back lot playing, I saw a woman standing in one of the windows. She was pale and had long, dark, wavy hair, and she was wearing a long white dress. She was looking down at us from the second floor window. She must have stood there for at least 5 minutes because I got a good look at her. For some reason, I didn't feel scared or concerned about her. I just thought it was a little weird. I told my sisters, but they thought I was trying to scare them. I don't remember what we talked about after, but I think that my gremlin sister decided with me that the woman was probably a ghost. It wasn't until recently that I realized something even more strange about what I'd seen. She was standing in front of the window on the second floor of a house that had a broken staircase. Bum bum bum! It's true though! My memory of it is very foggy because I was 5. But it's true, that is a thing that happened. It was spooky. And I'm like, from then on, I'm like, ghosts exist. Ghosts are real. How did she get up there if ghosts aren't real, huh? Teleportation? Maybe. Who knows? Ghost. Ghost. She's a ghost. Ghost confirmed. Alright. Ghost from Call of Duty? Yes, that kind of ghost. I've never played Call of Duty. Or COD. I haven't played any fishing simulator games. Those are scary. That's so scary. Most of them are fine. It's the ones that can actually do stuff and want to do stuff that are dangerous. A lot of them are just kind of vibing. Have you played Phasmo? I have. I've played it with friends. Not on my channel, but in general. I'm very bad at it. I die very quickly. It's fun, though. Love that game. To be honest, Ghost from Call of Duty is much scarier than actual Ghost. I see. Good to know. I'll keep a lookout for a ghost. Keeping a lookout. With all my eyes that I definitely have. Okay. Oh. What I always wanted in a horror game. That's good. Have you played Forewarned? Because between Forewarned and Phasmophobia, I much prefer Forewarned. I don't know, it feels more fun to me. I'd rather talk to the ghosts and have them reply in funny ways. Maybe we'll have... I don't know how I'd do that, how I'd play that with you guys. I don't know. Maybe sometime. If I get my Discord figured out, because that'd be fun to play with you guys. Play some Forewarned. Okay, I got a link. Got a link. Oh no, I already saw that link. Okay, we're gonna read... Yay! We're gonna read Max's last story. Alright, here we go. And if anyone else has any other stories they want to send, feel free to let me know. Okay, but yeah, if they're... either have them be yours or have them be public domain. Actually, maybe after this one I'll try to remember clap, clap, slide. Okay, this one's an urban legend. Okay, cool. Mother and father decided they needed a break, so they wanted to head out for a night on the town. They called their most trusted babysitter. Oh, this one. When the babysitter arrived, the two children were already fast asleep in bed. The babysitter just got to sit around and make sure everything was okay with the children. Later that night, the babysitter got bored and went to watch TV. She couldn't watch it downstairs because they did not have cable downstairs. Parents didn't want children watching too much garbage. So, she called them and asked if she could watch cable in the parents' room. Of course, the parents said it was okay, but the babysitter had one final request. She asked if she could cover up the angel statue outside the bedroom window with a blanket of cloth, as it made her nervous. The phone line was silent for a moment, and the father who was talking to the babysitter at the time said, "Take the children and get out of the house. We'll call the police. We don't own an angel statue." The police found both the children and the babysitter slumped in pools of their own blood within 3 minutes of the call. No statue was found. Whoa! That gave me shivers. Wow. That gave me shivers. Ooh! Ooh! Shiver, shiver, shiver. That one spooked me a lot. Yeah, it's spooky. It's real spooky. Okay, I'll try to remember clap, clap, slide. I'll try to remember it. If it's a bit rocky, it's because I have a hard time remembering it. Okay, so two kids were talking in a schoolyard, and their friend came over and heard the end of their conversation. It sounded like they were talking about something that was happening in town. Something relating to murders that were happening all over the place. The kids had heard about the murders very vaguely because their parents didn't want to hear them to hear about that kind of stuff. So they had to hear it from whispers and whatnot. But one thing that they knew for sure was that if they heard the sounds clap, clap, slide, clap, clap, slide, they had to run. And they had to run as fast as they could. Because anyone that survived, that was the sound they heard. And anyone that didn't survive, well, they couldn't tell the tale. So, the kid, having only heard this end part of the story, decided to learn some more. They learned that the people that had survived had only survived because they'd left someone behind to die in their place. They'd heard that everyone that was killed was cut in half, and only the top part of their body was found. It was like they'd been ripped straight down the middle, separating their torso and their legs. But only ever their top half was found. Their legs were never found. There was just no trace of them. So the kid's getting scared. Because it's now happened to 5 people in the town, and the town isn't very big. So the kid's on their way home, and the school is oddly quiet. They did have to stay a little bit later to finish up some assignments, but it shouldn't be this quiet. And then down the hall they hear clap, clap, slide, clap, clap, slide. They think, okay, maybe it's one of my schoolmates. They told me the story, so They're probably just trying to scare me. That's very like them to do that. So the kid just goes about getting his stuff from his locker, making sure he has everything. He hears it again. And it's closer than before. Clap, clap, slide. Clap, clap, slide. It's way closer than it was before. He doesn't see anyone down the hall. There's no shadow, there's nothing. It's coming from a dark hallway where the lights have already turned off. He starts to panic. He starts to walk quickly out of the school. He's on one end and he has to hurry fast. And he hears it again, but faster. Clap, clap, slide. Clap, clap, slide. Clap, clap, slide. Clap, clap, slide. Faster and faster until it's upon him. The last thing he sees is a ghastly woman with only a torso, dragging her body across the floor so that she can try to take his legs, like all the others before. And she'll keep doing this until she finds legs that fit her just right. Clap, clap, slide. But yeah, that's as far as I remember it. Rip child. There's another version of it where it's a escaped serial killer or something that is just a torso, but I don't know. I like it being a ghost better. It just makes it scarier, you know? Let me see. What else do we have? Okay. I'll read the next one I have. What's the next one? Okay. Have you guys ever heard about Tomino's Hell? Is anyone familiar with that story? So it's not actually a story, but it's a poem. It's a poem written by Yaso Saijo in 1919. It's about a child that killed their mom and dad, and then was sent to the lowest level of Buddhist hell to suffer for their crimes. I've never read the poem, and I won't be reading it. Because there's a legend that if you read it in your head, you get sick or suffer painful headaches. And if you read it out loud, you die. I was actually planning on reading it one day because I was curious. I wasn't going to read it out loud, but I figured I'd be fine just getting sick or getting a headache if it came down to it. I opened up a web browser to give it a quick read, and then the lights immediately flickered. Like, immediately. The webpage popped up, and the lights flickered. So I took that as a sign and decided against it. If any of you guys read it, though, tell me how it went. Just don't read it out loud, from start to finish. Whatever you do. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. This is a big one. This next one is long. I wrote this one out. It took me a very long time. It's long. It's like a whole thing. So, I'm gonna read it. Don't judge me too hard. I don't know if I'm a good writer or not. We'll find out. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm gonna read it out. It's like I said, it's very long. Okay, here's a story I wrote. This is not based on a true story or anything, just something I wrote because I wanted to make something scary. Some content warning. The story does contain the brutal graphic murder of people and animals. There's also body horror. I'm pinning that warning to the chat. Please take care of yourself and make the proper choices for your own well-being. I will not be upset if you have to sit this one out. Okay, I'm gonna put that in the chat. Just in case. Okay, it's pinned to the chat. Head pats! Thank you, Adrian. Head pats, head pats, head pats, head pats. Alright, and with those head pats, we're ready to begin. Here's the story I wrote. Like I said, it's very long. If my throat starts acting up, I may have to pause. Okay. Also, how's the music? Music good? Music's fine. Music's good, we're fine. I've been afraid of the dark for as long as I can remember. But I can never find a reason for why. Most people tell me that it's a fear that they have too, and that it's normal. And I usually just change the topic from there. My fear isn't just an uncomfortable feeling when I'm in a dark place. It isn't like someone looking down a dark alley and getting nervous, or using a nightlight when they're a kid. Since I was a little girl, I slept with all the lights on in my room. I keep my windows fully covered at all times so I'll never see outside when it's dark. And I have always had a strict self-imposed curfew of 7 o'clock. I have never been inside a movie theater. I have a closet dedicated to light bulbs and flashlights. I've even bought and installed a backup generator for my house should the power ever go out. My home is heavily modified so that no area can produce a shadow, and the attic door is blocked off with a piece of thin plywood so I won't even have to look at it. Most of my furniture is made of glass or plastic where possible, so there are less shadows cast by it. I don't own anything with a screen, and I don't own a washer or a dryer. All my laundry is done by hand. My nyctophobia controls my life to the point where I have to change jobs 6 times. And I've lost most of my relationships aside from my mother and father, who live in another city. I don't think the music really fits the vibe. We will mute it for now. Okay. Live in another city. Another unfortunate side effect is that it's often difficult for me to sleep because I really don't like closing my eyes, so I've spent a lot of my time awake and writing. I'm the author of a best-selling book series detailing the life of an intergalactic escape pod rescue worker. His job is to find and rescue people who have had to eject from their spaceships due to various emergencies. He's a neutral party, but often finds himself embroiled in the politics of space battles of the many factions across the galaxy, despite his best efforts. I do my best to write around my phobia, but given that the setting is space, I rely on my editors to add descriptions of the darker locations in the final drafts. I'm grateful I'm able to work from home and keep my lifestyle comfortable for me, but it's also enabled me to keep myself inside most of the time. I've holed myself away due to my fear, and it kills me that I'm such a weak person. I had worried for a long time that this would be my life forever. But everything changed one summer. It was the middle of the day when I heard a scratching at my back door. It wasn't entirely startling, as this was something that happened all the time. The neighborhood had a lot of free-roaming cats because it was such a safe, small part of town. There was hardly any danger of land-based wildlife taking them off due to our closest to the ocean on one side and a busy factory to the other side of us, and everyone knew each other in our little cul-de-sac. I knew a lot of the neighborhood cats, and only one of them would scratch at my door, Mim. I moved from my chair and walked to the back door to listen to see if Mim was still out there, as she sometimes got bored and sought out a different door to scratch at by the time I got to her. Sure enough, Mim scratched again, still wanting to see me. It was then that I got a disturbing feeling, like there was something dangerous outside. It was a similar feeling I got when I was near any of my doors and the windows at night. A gripping, dread-inducing feeling. I was very familiar with this, though, due to my severe phobia, so I was able to see past it and carefully open my door. There sat Mim, white, light brown, and fluffy as ever. Her delicate whiskers blowing in the wind, her elegant tail sliding along the cement of my back step. I smiled, though the foreboding feeling lingered on, and I knelt down to pet her. She did something I'd never experienced before. She attempted to come inside. No, Mim, this isn't your home, I quietly assured her, nudging her carefully back toward the outside. She meowed at me almost sadly, rubbing the top of her head against my knee as if she were asking if she could come in just this once. That got a chuckle out of me, and then my neighbor Liz called over from her backyard garden. She was a small, thin woman with dyed red hair and a pixie cut. She was in her golden years, experiencing retirement in floral gardening gear while her husband was usually at the park playing disc golf. They may have been the most active elderly people I'd ever met. "Is Madam Mim giving you trouble?" she asked jovially. I waved awkwardly to her in response while scratching at Mim's favorite spots. I was much happier interacting with cats than with people, but I did my very best to sound natural in my reply. I think she wants to come inside. But I won't let her. Don't worry. I focused pointedly back on Mim, passing my hand along her back. I heard Liz chuckle, then she went back to her gardening. I didn't think anything of this interaction, but perhaps I should have. The entire time I was there, petting Mim, I felt that dread deep inside me. The promise of death, and the sureness that eyes were following my every move from somewhere very nearby. The beginning of my nightmare started late into the dark hours. I was typing away at my typewriter when I heard a familiar scratching at my door. It wasn't unusual for Mim to be out and about at night like the other cats of the area. What was unusual was that she didn't ever scratch on my door at nighttime. She had long learned that I would not answer my door when it was dark out. She was a very clever cat. I felt that same disturbed feeling as during the day. This time, there was absolutely nothing that would make me open that door. I knew for a fact that it was fully dark outside, even with my various outdoor lights illuminating my home. I kept typing and assuring myself that Mim would get bored of scratching and go away. But she didn't. Her scratching was soon followed by meowing. She wanted to get inside, and she wanted to get in badly. I figured that maybe another cat was heckling her, or maybe she was just being a cat. Cats are strange, and do all manner of unexplainable things. If I were any normal person, I still would have checked on her. I still would have checked on her despite that. Instead, I sat in silence, trying very hard to ignore her meowing and scratching. And then it abruptly stopped. There was no sound, no scratching, not even the sound of traffic from the highway in the distance. I let myself listen to that silence, frozen in place, and I heard Mim one last time. She had shrieked like I'd never heard her before. It was the sound cats make when someone steps on their tail, but it was long, sustained. In an instant, my door shook at a sudden impact, startling me enough to make me jump in my chair. I felt coldness wash over me from my head to my feet. I knew what had happened. Anyone would know, based on the sounds. Mim was just thrown against my door. I was frozen again, listening for something, anything else. There was nothing. It wasn't until a loud knocking sound from my door did I realize I'd sat in stunned silence until the sun had risen. I could hardly stand due to the near catatonic fright that paralyzed me, and when I finally did, pins and needles punished me for being still for so long. I hurried to the door nonetheless, double-checking that it was the proper time for the sun to be in the sky before working on unlocking my door. Michelle! Michelle! Oh God, please answer! It was my neighbor, Liz. I opened the door with some trouble, finding a grisly sight. Liz was standing on my step, a horrified look on her face, tears threatening to slide down her cheeks, and Mim in her arms, lifeless. There was a visible mark on my door, and a small trail of blood running down from the mark. It was exactly what I'd thought. Michelle, did you see what happened? She isn't breathing. I was calling out to her this morning, but when she didn't come, I came to see, but she was already... The tears began to flow, and I wasn't sure what to say. She started to study my expression for something. Probably guilt. It was my door, after all, so of course she might suspect me to have done this. The suspicious gaze she gave me seemed to change when she noticed how I looked. I figured I must have been a mess, still in my clothes from the night before. Heavy bags under my eyes, wet as a sheet. I tried to stutter out an explanation. Last night, I was writing, and Mim scratched at my door, I began explaining. Liz's expression contorted into pure rage when I began. I never saw her angry like that. She didn't seem like the same person. So you killed her? You killed my Mim because of that? She screamed. I stepped back in fear, shaking all over. A few other neighbors came out of their houses to see what the screaming was about, all holding cell phones. Caught a glimpse into a dark window in one of their homes and further retreated into my own. No, I heard it. I heard the sound. Someone... I almost choked on my spit while trying to get it out. Someone threw her at my door. One of my neighbors on the other side, a buff brunette man named Laramie, came over to us. I heard that. Lots of meowing. Then a big bang sound, he stated simply. He didn't sound shaken by the scene in front of him, and for that I envied him. How am I supposed to believe that? Liz screamed, stamping right inside my house with Mim in her arms. I backed away from her instinctually. Laramie's wife Ella, a tall athletic woman with long straight black hair, spoke up. Liz, you know Michelle's a shut-in. She wouldn't leave her house that late at night. And you think she could lift Mim with arms like that? Her light English accent explained, unfortunately defending me with digs against my character at the same time, though I'll admit she was perfectly accurate. Before Liz could do or say anything else, there was another scream from somewhere else in the neighborhood. The growing crowd outside my house went towards it, Liz included. I could only watch as my door swung back and forth from the force of her leaving, eyes locked on that red stain left by my favorite cat. I eventually closed my door and found a spot on my couch to fall asleep. It was all I could do at that point to drag myself there and just let the stress pull me under. Half dazed, I thought I heard a voice say in a soothing whisper, "You're safe now." My phone rang hours later, waking me up. I pulled my thin, knitted blanket off myself and scrambled to the kitchen table that held my cordless landline, putting it to my ear. Out came the familiar voice of my mom before I had the chance to speak, and she sounded concerned. "Mija, you all right? I saw on Facebook. That's terrible!" she exclaimed. It was surprising that she'd heard word of the incident so quickly, but less surprising when I considered that the small town I lived in was prone to gossip. "I'm all right, Mama," I lied, dragging myself to the kitchen to make something to eat before she could insist I do so, as she always did. "Some people are sick! Truly, truly sick! Ay, those poor little things!" She spoke so quickly that I almost thought I misheard her. "Things? Mama, what are you saying?" I asked, wanting her to clarify that only Mim had died. "Did you not hear, Mija? There were 5 pets killed last night," she explained. Felt like I'd been socked in the gut. Mim was one thing, but 5? 4 other animals were killed all in one night? And the person that did it had been right outside of my door? I could feel myself starting to panic, so I slid onto the floor to catch my breath. 5? Mama, 5? "Yes, 3 cats and 2 dogs. Except for the one cat, all that was left was the blood in their collars," she fully explained. It got more twisted the more she explained. 5 pets were killed, all just outside of their homes. The 2 dogs only had their leashes and collars left behind, along with a puddle of blood. And the cat's collars were found on the street, and one on the owner's porch. None of this sounded real to me. It felt like I was floating in a world that was completely unfamiliar. I half listened to my mom carrying on about the horrific killings, disassociating near the end before finally excusing myself to eat my meal. I ate a sandwich in silence, only realizing as I sat there that I hadn't brought my blanket with me to the couch when I originally went to sleep. Time passed quickly for me, and before I knew it, I'd stumbled through 2 days without interacting with anyone. The ever-present feeling of dread made it difficult to function day to day, and I began to move strictly on autopilot. I'd made myself meals, proofread my rough drafts, and got some sleep now and then. I'd even somehow forced my robotic body to clean my door as well. I was shaken from this stupor when I received another phone call. Michelle Cortez speaking. I didn't have call display, so I had to always assume everything was a business call. A deep masculine voice greeted me on the other end. "Hello, Miss Cortez. My name is Anthony Briggs, and I'm a deputy of the nearby police department. Are you free to answer a few of my questions? This won't take long." He sounded friendly and forthcoming, but that didn't calm me down much. "Is this about Mim and the others?" I asked, unsure. I was confused about why he was calling me, but I was more than willing to tell him everything I knew if it meant the sick degenerate that killed those animals would be brought to justice. "Mim?" the officer responded, continuing a moment later. "Can I ask you to clarify?" His response struck me as odd. What else would he be calling about if it wasn't Mim and the other 4 pets? I continued. "My neighbor's cat, Madame Mim. She was thrown against my door the other night. She was killed by someone," I managed to explain. "I heard it loud and clear." There was some shuffling and hushed voices on his end of the line, and then he responded. "We do have reason to believe this is related. Please go ahead. Tell me what you heard," Officer Briggs gently said. I was confused, but explained to him what I heard that night. He listened without asking any questions until I was finished. "Miss Cortez, are you familiar with Gurpreet Ahuja? He also goes by Grant. Is that familiar to you?" the man asked. I was confused, but explained to him what I heard. I already read that. I wasn't fully familiar with the name, but that wasn't a surprise to me. I only knew the people in my neighborhood that lived directly adjacent to me or those that made an effort to interact themselves. "No, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar. Is everything all right?" I inquired. "He often goes on evening jogs in your area. Particularly on your street. You haven't seen him? Briggs sounded a little incredulous. No, sir. I have nyctophobia. I'm always inside when it's getting dark out, and I keep all my curtains closed all day and night, I admitted. I hoped he would believe me and leave it at that. Huh. Never heard of anything like that before. And would other people be able to confirm that? Your nyctophobia, I mean. He asked further. My grip tightened on the phone. It felt more and more like an informal interrogation. Yes, I can give you the phone number of a few people that could. My reply seemed to satisfy him when I heard him speak next in a more even tone. He collected the numbers for me before continuing. Well, thank you for your time. Mr. Ahuja is currently missing, so if anything comes up, please call the station and let us know. You might hear from me again. He said his goodbyes and hung up. I wanted to relax in my chair once the call was done, but those words, Mr. Ahuja is currently missing, played over in my mind. Just what was happening in our once safe, small town? Was this caused by the same person that killed all those animals? It had to be related, right? I'd heard that serial killers would usually start with animals and then move on to people. I would soon have my answer to all of these questions. I was typing at my typewriter again, finally able to work on the next chapter of my novel, when I heard what sounded like something dropping to the floor in the hallway. It sounded flat and made of wood, but it wasn't a very loud sound. I wondered if maybe one of my photos fell from the wall. Hesitantly, I stood and approached the hallway, playing in my mind what could have possibly fallen down. When I arrived, I saw a flat piece of wood, square in shape, and only about 24 inches on both ends. It dawned on me that it was the board my father screwed into the ceiling when I was first moving in, to keep me from having to see the attic door above. I mused on this a while longer, wondering just how it came down, and then I had a realization. I was so petrified at the idea that my attic door was fully visible that it didn't even occur to me what that likely meant. Everything inside me told me to run somewhere, call someone, do anything but look up. But look up I did. The attic door was partially open, but the edges weren't dark like I feared. There was light coming from behind the door. There was light coming from my attic. Someone was in my attic. Any relief I'd had from not seeing the darkness was gone in an instant. I started to back away slowly, and just as I did, the door opened fully. A set of old stairs folding down. I fell to the floor, my legs unwilling to support me. What I saw was nothing I could have ever imagined. A tangle of gangly legs and a thin body contorted its way out of the small attic door and down the stairs. When I could fully see it, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was tall enough for its head to reach my ceiling while crouched, and it looked humanoid enough. 2 legs with feet, 1 arm, 1 neck, shoulders, and a head. But it was as if someone had twisted the human form to be something so horrible, so ghastly, it was almost funny. It had leathery skin, a putrid grayish yellow in color, with a texture much like dehydrated fruit. Its limbs were thin and branch-like, the feet ending in claws that were bent at numerous unnatural places. Its one arm looked nearly human, even having 5 claw-like fingers, but its other arm was gone, ending at the wrist in a sharp point that looked deadly. Its knees were bent in the wrong direction, making its walk look painful and crude. It had no ears, but instead holes where the ears would be. The nose was much the same, but the eyes. The eyes were black and sunken, with light just barely visible from inside. Worst of all, the mouths. It had 3 in total. One where a human mouth normally is, one on the right side of its oversized head, and the third at its stomach. Each mouth had long, thin, pointed teeth, protruding out at various angles from where lips should have been. They reminded me of anglerfish teeth. When I was little, I thought creatures like this hid in the shadows, partially or fully cloaked in darkness. I thought monsters were meant to conceal themselves and strike when you didn't expect it. But here this thing was, standing over me in the bright lights of my home. I could make out every single wrinkly crease of its body, see how it held the wall with its singular clawed hand, and watch as it stopped right in front of me to crouch on its backward knees. It was real, and I could feel its breath on me. I'm so happy to meet you, With its mouth that shouldn't have been able to produce words, it spoke to me. The voice sounded almost human. Young, even, and had a slight lisp to it. It sounded neither masculine nor feminine. I couldn't respond. I was staring at this thing with wide eyes, and I could have sworn my heart had stopped. The creature crouched closer, blinking. "Shell, don't be afraid. I'm not a monster." It spoke to me again. It knew my name. There was no way this was real. It had to have been a night terror, or a hallucination from lack of sleep, or... "I'm not a monster like everyone else, Michelle. I want to be your friend. You're just like me." The creature spoke again. "My... friend?" I questioned, my own voice unfamiliar to me. The creature nodded. "Yeah, my name's Eddie. I'm the one that's been protecting you." The creature went on. It wandered to the attic door with nearly silent steps, closing the door delicately. Its movements were strange but soft. "I'm a hero." I pulled myself up so I was at least sitting up and not lying on the floor, but that was the best I could do. "Eddie?" I parroted his name back to him. He nodded once more. "You've been... protecting me?" I asked. "There's a lot of them around right now. The monsters," Eddie started. His tone sounded somewhat sullen. "Wandering around at night, in the dark. That's what they do. They're so comfortable being in the dark. Not like you and me." The more I listened, the less this felt like a dream, and the dread welled up in my stomach, churning inside me, threatening to escape as a scream or as vomit. "We both know to be afraid of the dark because of all the monsters. You're afraid of the dark like me, right?" Eddie tilted his head backward toward me, still fully facing away otherwise. I nearly puked when I realized he'd unhinged the jaw on his torso to accomplish this full back bend. I covered my mouth and nodded furiously. He righted himself and walked to kneel beside me again, offering his hand. "That's because you're not a monster. Only monsters aren't afraid of the dark." He didn't wait for me to take his hand, helping me onto my feet with his arm, wrapping it around my waist and pulling me up. He took my arm in his and walked me into the living room, putting my blanket over my shoulders and sitting me on the couch. He sat across from me on the floor. I could still feel the wrinkly and damp sensation where his skin had come in contact with mine well after the fact. "I used to be like you. I'd find somewhere bright that no one went to, and I'd hide there to stay safe from the monsters. Sometimes they'd find me and I'd have to find another sunny place, but I'd always have to run away again later." He was telling me his story, moving his hand without any purpose, as if mimicking how some people talk with their hands without fully understanding how it works. "Then I found your house. I watched and I saw you always have the lights on all the time. You're just like me! Finally. Finally." He rocked from side to side as he whimsically repeated to himself, "Finally, finally, finally." I couldn't stop myself. I had to ask. I already knew the answer, but the question escaped my lips before I could catch it. "What did you do to the monsters?" My voice was wavy and hardly a whisper. Eddie's grotesque mouths all curled at once, the bottom edge of his cracked eye holes turning upwards. "I ate them." Proud was the word that came to mind. He sounded proud of what he'd done. It was perfectly obvious what I had to do at that point. Assuming this wasn't all in my mind, I had just met some kind of abomination, and he was capable of killing and eating 5 animals in just a single night. He was intelligent, moved silently, and was also likely responsible for the death of a man he caught jogging in the dark. The most important part, though, he thought I was his friend. That was what I had to hold on to survive. I forced down the urge to scream and tucked my legs up onto the couch to keep from running away. I took some measured breaths and avoided looking at the 2 black voids staring back at me, at least directly, which was not difficult as I avoided eye contact regardless of who I was talking to. If this truly wasn't a dream or a hallucination, I had to keep myself safe somehow. "I want to be friends with you too," I said. My voice was shaky, but I was still impressed with myself for forming another complete sentence. Eddie slapped his hand on the floor several times jovially, ecstatic to hear me say those words. He shuffled over and sat next to me on the couch, having to pull back his knees and arch his back so his head didn't touch the ceiling. His movements were all very reminiscent of a child. "You're my friend now! You know, you're the first friend I ever had. I tried to make friends with the small ones that fly close to the light, but they don't know how to talk," he explained, likely talking about moths. "They're like us too." I nodded, gripping my pant legs nervously. I could hear my heart pounding in my head and feel how dry my mouth had become. I licked my lips before speaking again. So, Eddie, what do you do when you see a monster? I inquired. Whatever answer he'd give me, I knew it wouldn't be good, but I had to know. If I wanted to have any chance of a survival going forward, I would need to know as much about Eddie as possible. He made what sounded like a demented version of a giggle. I never talk so much with anyone. This is fun. Okay, I'll tell you how I do it. He turned a little on the couch to face me. Make sure it's a monster first. Sometimes it's hard to tell because lots of monsters pretend. They put up lights like you, but then when nighttime happens, they turn all their lights off. I see them with their kids sometimes, teaching them that being in the dark is better instead of sleeping with a light on. They think I won't see, just because I don't want to be out when it's dark. But I know where bright spots are. I watch from there. I listened, unblinking, watching as a trail of saliva descended from his long, pointed teeth. When I'm positive they're a monster, I make sure no one else is around. Then I get them right in the neck so they can't call out to other monsters. That's when I open my mouth and eat them. I can open my mouth really big, see? He opened the mouth on his torso to demonstrate. I must have looked horrified because he quickly closed it again. Inside was endless darkness, as if it weren't connected to his body at all, but to the abyss itself. I felt lightheaded and realized I wasn't breathing. Eddie frowned as much as his protruding teeth would allow. He breathed in and out, probably hoping I would imitate him, and I thankfully did. It's dark and scary in there, I know, but it's okay. Only monsters get sent in there. I won't show it to you again. He placed his hand on my head in what had to have been a comforting gesture. My head fit entirely in the palm of his hand, and I'd never felt more small in my entire life. I knew I had to ask more questions, but I couldn't bring myself to. My phobia stole every word I knew from me. Eddie seemed to realize this too, so he stood up, posture bent so his head wouldn't rest on the ceiling. I'm going to go look around. There's some monsters I want to check on. They're the worst kind. They only come out in the nighttime. They don't even move around during the day. He walked to my back door and, to my utter shock, he casually opened it up. It was the middle of the day, and he just looked around and then crawled outside. Once he was outside, he moved faster than I ever imagined he would, based on his build. I realized that he must have always moved quickly during the day, and that was why he was so comfortable being out in the open where people could see him in the bright sunlight. After he left, I probably lay on the couch for around an hour, mind running wild. I was fully working on the assumption that I hadn't lost my mind, and Eddie was a real threat. I initially had no idea how I'd warn anyone. There was no possible way to make this story sound even slightly feasible. The truth was more insane than any lie I could come up with. There was a monster living in my attic, killing and eating residents of the neighborhood, claiming that anyone comfortable being in the dark is the real monster. If I said that to anyone, they'd immediately worry for my already questionable mental health, or worse, suspect that I had something to do with the killings. I wanted to call my mom and ask for advice, but the usual, see, my friend has this problem, or theoretically, if I told you, excuses never worked on her. She had a way of always getting the truth out of me, and this particular truth was far too outrageous. I tried to fabricate a believable lie. Perhaps I'd seen something during the day, a suspicious person with a knife wandering the neighborhood. I could encourage people to keep their light on at night, to scare the would-be attacker off. That type of warning would work in two ways, because Eddie might start to doubt if the neighborhood people were monsters after all. And there's no way anyone could be suspicious of me for asking them to protect myself by keeping the lights on. The problem was the warning itself. I never really talked with anyone in the neighborhood, and I didn't have a method of communicating with them other than leaving my house or calling. Leaving my house meant Eddie could see me, talking openly with monsters. Calling anyone would be just generally suspicious. The shut-in of the block suddenly reaches out, unprompted. Red flags would definitely be raised. Then I had a thought. It would be hard to be convincing, given how I generally interact with anyone not in my immediate circle, if I couldn't be caught by Eddie, and I couldn't reach out over emails or phone calls. I would play the part of the supposed serial killer and write a warning note. I wouldn't need to send it to everyone in the neighborhood. I'd only need to pass it into the mail slot of the most gossipy person that lived there, Cal Warren. Cal was not exactly a direct neighbor of mine, but lived in the crook of the cul-de-sac, right at the bend. Whenever I was collecting my mail or going for a walk in the sun, on the rare occasion I felt up to it, I'd see him chatting about the latest big scandal. He would be the perfect person to send the threatening letter to because it would be no time at all before everyone in the neighborhood knew about it. I pictured him having a look of glee on his round face, green eyes glimmering beneath his ear-length, shaggy brown hair. He would happily spread the news, and surely 1 or 2 people would aim to protect themselves by keeping their lights on. I set to work on the note. There was no telling when Eddie would come back, and the last thing I wanted was to be caught for trying to save people from him. I pulled some gloves onto my hands, then changed the slant of my pen to disguise my handwriting. Using my experience as a writer, I stepped into the mind of a serial killer, or what I researched them to be like for a previous novel. I began my note. Best way to stay alive. Stay inside with your lights on. It's a friendly warning, but I'll be happy if you don't take it. I've already ended Grant. Wanna be next? I wasn't sure it was entirely convincing, but I tried to channel a narcissistic serial killer that thinks he's too smart to be caught. It felt wrong to mention Grant, Mr. Ahuja's chosen English name, but I needed the note to be taken seriously. Lives were in danger, and this warning was all I could think to do. With whatever courage I could collect, I put on a light coat and left my house for the time in several months. The first time in several months. I walked to the metal mailbox where the smaller mail for the cul-de-sac was sent to and took out my key, unlocking my own to pretend to be checking it. I was surprised to see a few pieces of mail for me, which was an excellent cover for why I was there to begin with. With the quickest hands I could muster, I slid the note into Cal's box, then pretended to look over my mail for a moment while glancing around to see if anyone had seen me. I didn't look closely because I was sure something dark would catch my eye and I'd have a panic attack in broad daylight, but that was my first mistake. A rare face! The booming voice of Cal reached me, sending a jolt of fright through my body. My mouth crackled into an uncomfortable smile. Hi, Cal. It's been a while. Just getting the mail. I lifted the small stack of letters I pulled from the box. I mentally kicked myself for saying that. It was so obvious I was checking the mail, just by looking. Pointing it out like that was trying to throw suspicion off of myself when he hadn't even suspected me. He chuckled, opening his mailbox casually, not even noticing, or maybe not acknowledging, how awkward I was. I'm expecting, like, a dead bird or something in here. This neighbor's been crazy these days. Did you hear about all the pets going missing? He asked while going through his mail. I tried to focus on what he was saying, but I was a little frozen in place. This was the worst time for him to be getting his mail, right when I put the threatening letter in there for him. He was drawing attention to us with how loud he was, and now everyone would be able to place me, the town weirdo, in that exact location at that exact time of day. Worst of all, Eddie might have been watching. Cal kept talking while I slowly died inside. Yeah, it's real scary. I think it's only a matter of time before the people go next. He spoke in a mock grave tone. I could tell he was loving the sudden excitement, as if this were a reality show and not our lives. His expression fell a bit when he saw the note. I should get going, I started, shuffling a little bit away from the mailboxes. Whoa! It's not a dead bird, but... He covered his mouth, and I just barely saw him hiding that smile I predicted he'd have. I just got a letter from the guy who's behind it. His glee was barely disguised. It turned my stomach a little to see a happy reaction from a supposed serial killer, and I must not have hidden my feelings well. You look sick. Maybe you should head home. I gotta call the police about this, he nodded to me, patting my shoulder as he walked by. After I tell every single person I know. The last part was a mumble. He was very excited to receive my note, and though his excitement highlighted what type of person he was a little too well, it meant that my plan had worked. Without waiting another moment, I hurried to my house. I looked left and right, hoping that Eddie hadn't seen, and equally hoping that no one would be suspicious of me. I slammed and locked the door the second I was inside, clumsily letting the letters scatter across the floor. For some reason, I had it in my head that I needed an alibi if Eddie came back, so I hurried to have a shower, locking the bathroom door. The last thing I wanted was to be completely vulnerable with Eddie living in my attic. Halfway through my shower, there was a knock at the bathroom door. I'm back. I did really good today. Come out and talk with me when you're done. It was Eddie. I didn't even hear him come in, and I was sure I'd locked the back door. He was probably entering through a window to the attic, but doing so completely silently. It was a powerful confirmation for me that he could be anywhere at any time without so much as a peep. The hot water of the shower couldn't stop me from shivering at the thought. All right, I'll be out soon, I forced a reply. I kept reassuring myself that I was to act as Eddie's friend. If he thought for even a moment that I'd turned on him, I'd meet the abysmal darkness of his grotesque stomach. I heard him giggling further away. It was so uncanny that he spoke and acted the way he did while looking like that. Anyone who heard his voice from the other side of the door would just assume they were talking to a regular human. The more I thought of it, the more I wondered if maybe I was going about this all wrong. Could Eddie be reasoned with? I exited the shower, dried off my hair and body, then got dressed. I opened up the door very slowly, wondering just where Eddie had gone. When I stepped further out of the bathroom and closed the door, I felt warm breath on my neck. It smelled like fresh blood. Boo! Eddie's voice quietly tickled my ear from behind. I screamed and jumped forward. The scream was so shrill and loud that it barely even sounded like me. Eddie giggled, happy his little prank scared the hell out of me like he must have intended it to. I got you! I'm sneaky, right? He walked around me and headed for the living room, arms swinging as he went. I exhaled with a hand to my heart as if that would encourage it to slow down. You sure are. I followed him, but stopped by the kitchen to turn on the electric kettle so I could get some instant coffee. I sat down to listen to his story. Eddie started to pace in front of me as he spoke. So I want to start with monsters that aren't going to be noticed right away. There are too many monsters looking around right now because I got a bunch at once. There's these 2 monsters that live in a house by the water, and they're the type that only come out at night. You know, the ones I was telling you about. He gestured with his hand once more, an odd quirk of his. I went into their house through the back door, and it wasn't even locked. But the house was really dark, so I had to turn on lights and stuff. When I got to their room, they were sleeping. Can you believe that? Sleeping in the daytime and doing everything at night? I didn't know those people, but they were still people. My heart seemed to sink further and further down with each word he spoke. But he just killed 2 more people, just like that. I listened quietly, nodding now and then, doing everything I could to seem less scared than I was. So I went in their room and turned the lights on, and the bigger one woke up. It looked at me like I was the monster, but it must have known that I'm the one killing their kind. I got it right in the throat, and it started making some really funny faces. Blood woke up the other monsters, so it got to see me eating the first one. I got it halfway in my mouth down here when it started to punch me, so I had to eat its head with my mouth here at the same time. Eddie gestured first to the mouth on his torso, then to the main mouth on his head. I tried with all my might not to picture the excruciatingly painful way he was describing a person's murder. When it was all eaten, the other monster lay in the bed again all still and covered its head with a blanket. I think it was trying to hide in darkness, so I had to lift up the blanket and I ate this one, starting at the feet, too. It went down a lot easier because it didn't fight back. Eddie sat by me on the couch when he was done his story. I'm a hero, Michelle. That's just 2 more monsters gone. Everyone like you and me are going to be so safe when I'm done. He seemed to want praise from me, but I wasn't sure what to do or say. Encouraging him was the wrong move. If he could be reasoned with, I didn't want him to think that murdering people was the right thing to do. However, discouraging him was also not an appealing option. Because if he couldn't be reasoned with, I'd be dead, and I wouldn't be able to prevent any further killings. Before I could react, though, Eddie spoke again. I saw your letter, Michelle. His voice was calm, matter-of-fact, and those words made my blood run cold. My letter? I asked. I was hoping he meant something else. Anything but the warning letter I sent to Cal. Anything but that. Yeah, the one about keeping the lights on at night, he continued. His face got closer to mine. I could feel his eyes looking me up and down, as if for confirmation. I heard the kettle boiling in the other room, the birds outside, and my heartbeat pounding in my ears. That's right. I wrote a letter. I sent it to Cal. I just said words. There was no direction to what I was saying, no meaning. I spoke for the sake of speaking. I spoke in place of sobbing. Eddie's mouth turned into a grin again. Then he put his arm around behind my back and pulled me toward him. And I'm going to pause because I need a drink. I'll be right back. I shall return. I shall return. Be right back. Whee! drink, drink. Drink, drink. Alright, I'm back. I got a drink. So what do you guys think so far? Do you like it so far? What do you think? What do you think? Be honest. I know it's a little weird. I know it's a bit strange. Be honest, be honest. Oof. Goodness. Very scary. Oh, nice. Good, good. That's a pretty messed up way to die. Get eaten legs first on one end while choking on your own blood, and then have another head eat you from the head down. You're getting eaten in two directions at once while your throat is stabbed. Alive. That is horrific. Oh my gosh. Certainly enjoying it though, yes. Oh. Good, good. How do you like our protagonist and her nyctophobia? That would be debilitating, my gosh. That'd be hard to live your life if you're afraid of the dark that much, my gosh. Most of your furniture is like glass and plastic because you can't even deal with shadows most of the time. My gosh. I can't believe it's like 2 o'clock. Hope the landlord's not listening. Okay, I think I'm ready to start again. A little bit. Another drink. I think I missed a bit of the setup. Yeah! Our main character is terrified of the dark. Which is why Eddie is like... Eddie thinks that she's like him because he doesn't like the dark either. He thinks that monsters are the ones that are comfortable being in the dark. You know, so most people in the world. Like, she doesn't even own anything that has a screen on it. It's that bad. It is that bad. Okay, I better get going again with it or else I'll fall asleep. Okay. Next. Okay, when we last left our hero. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Eddie's mouth's turned into a grin again. Then he put his arm behind my back and pulled me toward him. I closed my eyes tightly, body stiff, bracing for pain. Pain didn't come. He was hugging me. I knew it! I knew you wanted the monsters gone just like me! He sounded overjoyed. I didn't dare say a word, not when the teeth of his torso were pressing it flat against my stomach. He shook me a bit, but in a way that seemed more friendly than threatening. That was a really good idea! That monster talks to everyone, so now the other monsters will keep their lights on at night if he warns them. He started. Now I can kill more monsters at nighttime because it'll be brighter out. I felt like a complete fool. How did I not consider that? I'd tried to protect people by making it harder for Eddie to find monsters, but instead I made it easier for him to kill the people he already considered monsters. I hoped no one would take the note seriously. Maybe they would think it was a prank. I couldn't tell Cal to call it off. He'd likely already told the police, and if I were taken in, Eddie could keep on killing people again and again without a worry in the world. Death would be on my hands unless I could find a way to reason with Eddie or somehow kill him. The kettle made a click noise, letting me know the water had boiled. I needed to buy time for myself before choosing my next move. I had to play along. That's right, Eddie. I did it to make things easier for you. I wanted it to be a surprise, so I kept it a secret, I explained to him. I was happy he wasn't going to kill me at the very least, and relief was apparent in how I relaxed my body. Eddie let go of me. He still looked very pleased about all of this. You're a really good friend. I want to do things for you, too. He spoke in a pondering tone, his hand picking at his teeth while he thought it over. What are friends supposed to do for each other? His question sent my mind alight with ideas. That was my chance to kill several birds with one stone. If I played my cards right, I'd be able to endear him to me further, learn more about him, and possibly inch him away from his vendetta against monsters. I let my body relax, smiling at Eddie. Well, lots of things. We can do stuff together, talk to each other, tell each other secrets. I especially hoped the last point would get his attention. Eddie sounded young, and secrets were enticing to any kid. Secrets? Sure enough, he was interested. What kind of secrets? I stood and walked to the kitchen to actually start making my coffee, and Eddie followed close behind. Well, I'll tell you one of my secrets if you tell me one of yours, but we have to promise not to tell anyone else, okay? I was really getting the hang of sounding calm. I wondered if this was because of mankind's inherent capacity for adaptation, or if I was just starting to get numb to Eddie's presence. I promise I won't tell anyone your secrets. You're my only friend anyway, and I don't want to talk to any monsters. He crouched, getting his head a little too close to the coffee cup so he could get a smell of it. I prepared my coffee by pouring in the water and then the milk so that the liquid would never have to get too dark for my comfort. I stirred my cup of coffee with a spoon while trying to think of a nice juicy secret. I didn't want it to be anything he could use against me, but I also didn't want it to be boring so he'd lose interest. It had to be just enticing enough that he'd have to share something just as secret with me. Good. I promise I won't tell anyone your secrets either. I walked back over to sit on the couch again. Eddie didn't join me that time, instead choosing to sit on the floor so he could look at me more directly. When I was little, I remember someone said to me that people bully other people when they like them. That isn't true, but I was really young, so I believed it. I really liked a guy named Jamie, so I started to put bugs in his locker, gum on his desk, and one time I tripped him when we were playing outside. He broke his arm and cried, and then I never saw him again. I was mad about it because he never did anything mean to me back, so I asked my mama why not, and she got really mad at me for being a bully. I told my story, which was entirely true. I still felt bad about doing all those mean things to Jamie whenever it came to mind. Eddie thought about it some more before laughing a little. You were a stupid kid. That's funny, he exclaimed. I didn't expect an outright insult, but he wasn't wrong. What about you? Can I hear one of your secrets? I asked him. I hope for something useful. Anything that would help me survive or better, stop him. Promise you won't tell anyone? He asked me. That only enticed me even more. I promise, no one will ever know, just you and me, I responded. It felt very wrong to manipulate Eddie like that. He was a murderous abomination, sure, but he fully believed that what he was doing was right. And if my assumptions were correct, he wasn't very old either. He nervously shifted a bit on his knees before speaking. Well, I used to be really scared all the time. I would hide in the mountains away from all the monsters when it got dark. I'd go to this big factory and sit with the loud machines. It's always bright at the factory. His words sounded genuine. I didn't want the monsters to try hurting me, so I never talked to any of them or let them see me. One time some monsters saw me, and then they made a plan to try getting rid of me. They waited for me at the factory in the dark, and when I was there, they shot at me. I got away, but they closed a door on my hand and I had to bite myself free, so now I only have one hand. I watched Eddie wave his pointed arm. The more I looked at it, I could tell that it was just a bone at the end with skin and muscle clinging along the edges. This told me one very important thing. Eddie could be hurt. I needed more information. I kept telling myself over and over again that I shouldn't feel bad about this. I was doing this to protect myself and to protect other people from whatever horrific fate Eddie had planned for them. I even forced myself to imagine Eddie eating someone alive from the torso and the head at the same time, like he vaguely described. It brought the fear back into me. I wouldn't let anyone else die so horribly. That's terrible. Thank you for sharing with me, though, Eddie. I promise I won't tell anyone your secret, ever, I said. I wasn't sure if anyone would believe me even if I did tell them. Eddie seemed satisfied by this, but I decided to ask further questions. So bullets are something that can hurt you? I questioned, my aim being to speak in a way that sounded concerned. Eddie did some kind of half shrug. They're loud and they hurt when they hit, but they're not that tough. I think I'd get hurt if I got hit with lots and lots of them, he muttered, obviously not happy with that line of questioning. I'm really fast, so no one can hit me anyway. I changed my tactic, not wanting to irritate him. I've been wondering, how did you find out that monsters stay in the darkness? I asked. I had wondered about many things regarding Eddie, but I especially wondered how he could speak and understand the concept of monsters hide in the dark if he avoided human interaction. Eddie gave another half shrug. I remember hearing someone say it. They were small, and like you and me, they said that monsters hide in dark places so they can grab you and do awful things to you. The wrinkly yellow skin on his forehead seemed to crease as he tried to recall past memories. That was a long time ago. I nodded as I sipped at my coffee, lukewarm due to how much cream I had put into it. We both let the room stay silent for a short time, probably thinking about what to say next. I was the one to finally break the silence. You know, people that aren't monsters sometimes pretend, I started. Eddie looked at me, an expectant look on his face. They pretend that they're comfortable being in the dark so that monsters don't do anything bad to them. They pretend to be monsters, just like sometimes monsters pretend to be regular good people, I finished explaining. It wasn't a perfect strategy to dissuade him from killing people, but I didn't want to fully reject his worldview and risk him suspecting me. If he would doubt that he was killing monsters, that would be enough of a win in my eyes, and that was the first step to ending the killings altogether. Eddie's expression seemed puzzled, but not upset. I was starting to recognize what the contortions on his inhuman face meant, as far as emotions went. That makes things harder. He attempted a pout without lips. I'm gonna have to look really, really hard. I can help you find out which are monsters and which are not. I've lived here a really long time, I explained further. More than anything, if Eddie believed I was an expert on monsters, I would be able to control him better. And maybe I'll ask you if I'm not sure. There's some that I'm really, really sure about, though, so I'll make sure to kill those ones soon. He rocked from side to side while he thought about it. Thanks, Michelle. I smiled. The first genuine smile I'd managed in quite some time. I knew he would be able to be reasoned with, and it felt like I was making progress. It took only a moment for my raised spirits to plummet once more when Eddie stood and approached the door. There's actually one monster I want to get right now before the sun starts going down. He put his hand to the doorknob and gave it a twist while looking at me. His grin was more malicious than I'd ever seen from him. The monster that screamed at my friend. Before I could say a word against it, Eddie opened the door and rushed out. I stood so fast to pursue him that the blood rushed from my head and I had to brace myself on the doorframe. He was going to kill Liz. I knew I had to do everything in my power to stop him. I made it to the door in time to see Eddie crawl through one of the second-story windows of Liz's home. My gaze caught the darkened windows of the building, freezing me in my tracks. Darkness. The inside of her house looked so alarmingly dark. I could feel my heart rate rising and I started to breathe in uneven, shallow gasps. I was terrified. Of course he would assume Liz was a monster. She was an environmentalist nut that made sure to turn off every light in her house when she left a room, no matter what time of day. I knew this because she once insisted that I do the same, even after I explained my phobia. To Eddie, it must have seemed like she was attacking me when she found out about Mim, and when he noticed how dark her house usually was, that confirmed it for him. I stared at the darkened windows and I could feel my heart pounding as if it were caught in my throat. I wanted to run back to the safety of my brightly lit home and slam the door, but my worry for Liz had me anchored in place. I scanned her house to see where she was and saw a light in her front room on the main floor. I could just barely make out her form through the window, sitting in a chair, looking at some sort of thick book that rested in her lap. Another light turned on in the house, the room Eddie had entered into. And then the room beside that. And then the room after that. It was like watching a lit fuse burning closer to a powder keg. I dashed towards her house, my arms waving wildly. I tried to scream her name, but my voice refused to come out like in so many of my nightmares. I was about to knock on the window, but I saw Eddie briefly pass by a different window toward the stairs, and my selfish need to preserve my own life gave me pause. The light at the bottom of the stairs turned on, and I saw Liz's head snap towards it. I didn't want her to die, especially not because of me. I must have run to the front door because I found myself there, hurriedly knocking. Hello? Please open the door. My voice finally came out, though not as loud as I would have liked. Please, right now, open the door! I knocked some more, but heard nothing on the other side. I stopped knocking so I could listen, but there was no sound at all. With whatever courage I had left, I grabbed hold of the doorknob and wrenched the door open. Through the inner screen door, I saw Eddie standing beside the chair Liz was sitting in just moments ago. Liz's head, only partially visible from within his mouth. Her face was contorted into a silent scream of agony as blood spilled over her teeth and onto her chin. I watched in quiet horror, and I could have sworn her wide, glassy eyes stared at me before Eddie's jaw clamped shut. I felt a rush of cold take my body all at once. I tried to blink away specks of black that tainted my vision, only to realize I was lying down somewhere soft. I foolishly thought and hoped that what I just witnessed was a nightmare, that all that happened was one long, drawn-out dream that my sleep-deprived brain came up with while working on my novel. Then Eddie came into my sight from above, hovering over me. He put his hand on my head, careful not to cover my eyes. We were in Liz's house, in the same room where he killed her. I must have fainted, and Eddie moved me to the couch. "Are you okay, Michelle?" he asked me. He sounded concerned, which was reasonable because he considered me a friend, but at that time felt like the most strange reaction he could have had. I couldn't respond. Liz's dying face was fresh in my mind, almost like it was looking down at me from the ceiling. Eddie began petting my head, and that was when I realized I'd started to cry. He'd killed Mim to protect me. He killed Liz for the same reason. I didn't care if Eddie thought I was crying over Liz, a monster in his eyes. I sobbed uncontrollably, not crying that hard since my abuela died. Liz was a good woman, and completely innocent. She didn't deserve to die, least of all in that horrifying way. I imagined how she must have felt when Eddie appeared. Liz likely didn't know what to do, and how could she? No one expects a creature like Eddie to come after them, especially not while they're in the safety of their own home in broad daylight. I was sure he'd given her no time to react, and that was the only benefit of his methods. Her death, while painful, was quick. With a delicate grip, Eddie shuffled me off to the couch and onto his back. I didn't make any attempt to get away from him, and I was limp as he moved me. "Hold on to me," he said quietly. His voice was soft, comforting, but it did nothing to make me feel better. I reached around him like he said and let him carry me. Caught a glimpse of what book Liz had been flipping through, and there was her smiling face staring back at me. It was a photo album filled with happy memories. My sobbing didn't stop, even as Eddie brought me home, where he put me in my bed and tucked me in. "I think maybe you should wait to try helping me kill monsters. I'm a lot braver than you are," he said as he stood in the doorway to my room. "Get better soon." I curled up, held myself, and cried until I fell asleep. I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing, but I didn't make a move to pick it up. It rang and rang, but it just felt like the sound was bouncing around in my head. It stopped, and then began again. Each ring sounded more and more like a voice screaming in pain, likely distorted by my fractured mental state. I didn't have an answering machine. Answering machines have screens, and screens are dark, so whoever was calling had tried to call twice, and was on their third attempt. I had a suspicion that it was my mama calling, so before the third cycle finished, I grabbed the phone from my bedside table. "Hello." A croak came out in place of my usual voice. "Mija, why didn't you pick up the phone? I called twice. I thought you were dead," she screamed in my ear. I could hear the worry in her voice. "I'm not dead, Mama," was all I could think to say back. I didn't feel particularly alive, nor did I sound it. My mama probably picked up on that. "Are you all right? Have you been crying?" "I will grab Papa and we'll come get you right now," she said, speaking so quickly that my brain had to catch up to process it. No, don't come," I almost shouted back. My reply probably came as a surprise because there was a short silence on the line. I didn't want my parents anywhere near Eddie, even if I was sure I could convince him they weren't monsters beforehand. "Mija, I know you're scared to travel, but we'll block the car windows and keep all the lights in the car on. I can't let you stay somewhere so dangerous. People are being taken left and right there," she continued. Word had apparently spread that Liz and the two from earlier were gone. It was a small town, so it only made sense that everyone already knew. With my mom keeping tabs, she found out just as quickly. All that remained at the scenes would have been blood, but that was enough to suggest foul play beyond a shadow of a doubt. I knew the town was on high alert, and I hoped it would lead to a mass exodus situation. "That's why I don't want you coming, Mama. It's dangerous," I started. I knew that wouldn't satisfy her, so I cut her off before she could reply. "I've got a friend over. He's big and strong, and he's staying with me. He'll protect me." It wasn't entirely the truth, but it also wasn't a lie. Eddie still considered me a friend, and as long as that was the case, I was safe. "A friend? Who is your friend? Why didn't you tell me about this?" Her tone changed a little bit, going from panic to intrigued. "When will you introduce us to him, Is he handsome?" Just a friend. Don't start picking names for grandchildren. I forced an awkward joke to get her to calm down, and it did make her chuckle. All right, but I'm serious, mija. Call us if you want to be picked up, and we'll come right there, okay? She asked me. Yes, Mama, I'll call you. I gotta go, though. I need to make something to eat. I knew she would agree with that sentiment, too. She was always wanting me to eat it more. I'll call you again tomorrow, so don't worry me. We'll come rescue you, she said in a half-scolding tone. Okay, Mama. Love you. We said our goodbyes, and I hung up the phone. The sound of her voice, and knowing that she would willingly drop everything to come and get me, took a big weight off of my shoulders. If she hadn't called, I'd have probably just lied in bed in silence for hours while reliving Liz's murder on repeat. My internal clock told me it was night at that point, but I needed to keep myself busy to avoid a panic attack, so I went to the kitchen to make something to eat and to take my anxiety medication. Eddie was thankfully nowhere in sight, so I was able to make a simple sandwich with what still remained in my fridge. It had been a while since I ordered groceries, but that would have to be a problem for another day. As I sat on the couch and ate my sandwich and drank some coffee, I had to force myself to think of anything but Liz's final moments. I would find myself spiraling, blaming myself, contemplating what I could have done differently, trying to think of what to do to keep Eddie from killing anyone else. For all I knew, my warning to the others might have encouraged him to commit some nighttime killings, and I would have just been sitting there and eating a sandwich while more innocent people disappeared between Eddie's teeth. I didn't fool myself into believing there was anything I could do at night, though. I wouldn't be helpful to anyone in my nyctophobia-induced panic. That, and I felt I'd already failed Liz. Maybe if I'd knocked on the window, I could have warned her sooner. Would Eddie have stopped if I got to her first and told him not to kill her? Would he have thought I was siding with the monsters and killed me too? My rational mind didn't accept that Eddie was just too fast. I was beating myself up over something I could not have reasonably prevented in the moment. My fourth spiral was interrupted by a very loud knock at my door. I didn't move, not even to look in the direction of the door. Of course, I had no plan to answer it. Opening that door would mean confronting the darkness behind it. I was sure whoever was there would be familiar with me and would come back in the morning if I ignored them. Eddie had no reason to knock, and any healthy, reasonable person would be asleep at that hour. With one concerning exception, of course. 4 more knocks, louder and more aggressive than the last, this time with a shout to accompany them. Police! Open the door! A man's voice shouted. My grip on my coffee mug tightened. That wasn't a suggestion or a request. I could feel every hair on my arm stand at attention. Carefully, I walked to the door, hoping they would be reasonable, and hoping Eddie was not in the house to hear them. I walked past the hallway, and the door to the attic was open, but Eddie wasn't peeking out. He would have come out if he were home, so I figured he was either a heavy sleeper, if he slept at all, or he wasn't there. I tried to calm my breathing when I arrived at the door, and I flinched when there was another round of knocking. I'm here. I can't open the door, I meekly said. My nyctophobia. It's the police! Open the door, now! The man on the other side of the door insisted. I tried to speak more loudly in case they didn't hear. I can't. I have a crippling fear of the dark. Nyctophobia. It's too dark outside. Please come back in the morning and I'll talk with you. My voice should have been loud enough that time for them to hear me. Was I being suspected of what happened to Liz? Surely her husband would have called the police the moment he got home and saw the blood on the floor. Why hadn't I been more concerned that this would happen? I knew for a fact that I was the most suspicious person in the town. I was a shut-in and the town weirdo. I had been acting strangely, and Cal would have been able to testify to that. And of course, I was next door to Liz, and Mim was found on my doorstep, the only corpse that was discovered. If you don't come out, we're coming in. You're under arrest for the disappearance of Lizbeth Border. His words shot through me, and their impact was devastating. I froze in place, mind racing. I knew I had to go with them. I didn't have a choice. If I resisted arrest, that would only make me look more guilty, but worse. What if Eddie came home? He would protect me from them, but that would mean more innocent people would die. Their lives were what made me unlock the door, but my fear prevented me from opening it. We'll give you to the count of 3, the officer continued. It's unlocked! It's unlocked it! I unlocked it! I can't open it! I could feel myself starting to panic. The door flew open a moment later, and there were guns drawn on my face. I'd never been in the same room as a gun before, let alone at the end of the barrel of one. My hand shot up above my head. The next moments moved so quickly that I wasn't sure what was even happening until I was on the floor and underneath a police officer. He was reading me my rights, but all I could focus on was a sharp pain in my shoulder as the officer forced them behind me and into handcuffs. I teared up from the pain while 2 other officers started to search my house. I'd wished they would find Liz in the attic, safe and sound like we all wanted. It was a stupid wish, but I wanted it more than anything in that moment. On your feet! The officer on top of me stood and kept a firm grip on my wrist as he pulled me up. My eyes widened when I saw where he was leading me. No. No, no, no. Please. I tried uselessly to dig my feet into the hard-rolled floors as the officer encouraged me toward the front door. I didn't weigh much, and he was much stronger than me. I began to kick and struggle against him. Stop! Oh God, please stop! I was fully in panic mode at that point. I felt lightheaded and my heart rate must have spiked. It's just darkness. It's not going to hurt you, so walk. My fear and panic seemed only to annoy the officer. He pushed me harder until we were actually outside. The world seemed to warp and turn toward me all at once. I felt like a pressure was on my chest, a pressure so heavy that it pushed the air right out of my lungs. I became lightheaded, and all I could do was gasp for air and scream intermittently. When I was in the police car and the door closed behind me, it was darker than I could have ever dared to imagine. The events that followed were a nightmarish blur. I vaguely recall one of the officers pounding on the window by my head, another yelling at me to shut up. At one point, I didn't even feel like my body was my own, and I was watching myself sob and scream. One memory that stood out to me was the short glimpse of a tall, inhuman silhouette standing in a streetlight through the back window, staring at the police car as we continued without it. At some point, I must have passed out, because I woke up in a room with bright yellow walls, a silver metal toilet, a hard shelf I assumed was a bed, and one fluorescent light beaming down on me. I threw the blanket off of myself to escape its shadow and curled up in the corner of the tiny room, holding my knees to my chest. One side of the holding cell was basically clear, with a door built into it, but I didn't look further through it. I knew there would be shadows, or dark doorways, or blackened hallways, something that would set me off again. I could barely get my thoughts together, and I couldn't pull myself out of panic mode no matter how much I manually slowed my breathing. With unblinking eyes, I stared at a bright spot on the floor, unmoving. I didn't know how much time had passed when a man came to the door. He said something to me, but all I caught was the end of it. A gentle, He started to unlock the door and spoke again. So today will be better than yesterday, right? He asked. I looked over at him with wide eyes, but didn't manage a nod. You didn't move or say a word to the officers when they were asking questions. 2 whole hours and you barely blinked, he specified. I didn't remember what he was talking about. Had I disassociated for 2 hours without remembering any of it? I couldn't finish. My voice was shaking. I saw him frown from the corner of my eye, then the door opened. Come on, we'll try again, all right? We want to help you, but you need to be willing to talk with us, Michelle. Can you do that? He leaned on the door frame. I didn't believe him. I knew they suspected me of Liz's disappearance. They wanted me to confess so that they could carry on with their lives. I nodded anyway. I would cooperate. The only thing I couldn't do would be to tell the truth. I stared at my feet as I was led to an interrogation room. Luckily, it was bright inside, and it had a door with a small glass window that was also well lit. That calmed me a little bit. I knew quite a bit about interrogations because I'd written detective novels before, in my early career. I would be in there for a long time, and they would do what they could to trip me up and confess. I wanted so badly to tell them the truth. I hadn't told anyone about Eddie, and it would feel so good to bring someone else into the insanity of it all, as cruel as that was. I knew that they would never believe me, and that it would only make them question my mental health more than they likely already were. I took a seat in the chair closest to the back wall. Somewhere in the room was a hidden camera. That was my assumption. There was always a camera, and always a microphone. The men left me alone there for what felt like forever, but it gave me some time to bring my panic down from an 11 to an 8. The door opened with a soft creak, and in came a pale, red-headed woman in a pair of dark jeans and a light purple blouse. She took a seat on the chair across from me, and a dark-skinned, bald man followed behind, wearing a pair of dark blue slacks and a lighter blue polo. I'm Officer Loonston. This is Officer Jason Zawinski. Good to meet you, Michelle. The woman introduced herself and offered her hand to shake. I took her hand and let her do the shaking. Jason placed a clipboard onto the table. We understand you suffer from a severe case of nyctophobia, is that right? Officer Loonston continued. I nodded. Yes, it was dark on the way here. I think I freaked out the whole time, I uttered. I didn't really know what I was saying. Probably knew that I'd been screaming. The arresting officers likely told them. I could feel the table shake from my leg nervously bobbing. We tried to talk to you last night, Michelle, but you didn't say anything to us. Do you remember any of that? Livingston continued. She was speaking in a soft but serious tone. I was glad she was asking these questions gently. I would probably break if they came at this with any kind of harshness. No, I'm sorry. I'm not myself when I'm scared, I replied. Officer Zawinski wrote something down on the clipboard, then passed some stapled papers over to me on the table. I listened as they told me my rights, made sure I understood everything, and had me sign the papers. I knew that I would be able to get out of there if I asked for a lawyer, and it was always advisable to do so, but I didn't want to leave them with the impression that I wouldn't cooperate. Part of me also wanted to stay in that interrogation room because it felt like the responsibility of stopping Eddie wasn't mine. I was in prison. Whatever Eddie did was out of my hands, at that point. It was selfish, but he still terrified me. If I went back home, I would have to explain to him why the police that took me away, kicking and screaming in the dead of night, weren't monsters. Are you still scared, Michelle? Lewinston asked me. I couldn't meet her eyes and sort of hugged myself around the waist. I am. My nyctophobia is debilitating. I can't even look at a dark drink in a coffee cup, I responded. I wasn't trying to resist arrest, I was panicking. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. We've confirmed with your family and with your healthcare provider all about your nyctophobia. We'll do all we can to make sure you're comfortable moving forward, but we need you to help us, too, she replied. I knew what she was doing. She was trying to rebuild a rapport with me, get me comfortable so I'd think she had my best interests at heart. My assumption was that Officer Lewinsky would be the bad cop of their duo. A point of concern was that there wasn't a mental health professional in the room to support me. Michelle, we'd like to talk to you about yesterday. Can you tell us everything that happened? We're looking for the truth. Officer Zawinski finally spoke up. His voice was deep, though not intimidating. I wondered how they'd know I was a suspect. They had to have had something on me if they were able to arrest me at all. This wasn't just based on a hunch or the fact that I was Liz's neighbor. Perhaps someone saw me there. I decided what my lie was going to be. I spent a lot of the day in my house, but I think you want to know why I was knocking at Liz's door. I figured I would come forth with that admission right off the bat. Openly giving away that kind of information was sure to make the rest of my story more believable. The two officers gave me their full attention, so I began weaving my lie. I just stepped outside for some fresh air because it was still light out, and I thought I saw someone crawling in through one of the upper windows of Liz's house. It freaked me out, so I ran to her front door and tried to warn her about it. She didn't answer, so I tried the doorknob and it was unlocked. I went inside and called out for her, but she wasn't answering, and I think the excitement made me pass out, so I don't really remember. When I woke up, I was on her couch, so at some point I must have stumbled there in my daze, or I thought maybe I was found and put there by Liz or her husband. I paused to see if either of them had any questions, but they were still ready and waiting for me to continue. I sorted through my memory and remembered that Eddie and I had left through the back door, after all. Then I called out to them again, but they didn't reply. I felt really dazed. I don't do a lot of physical things, so I can get lightheaded easily. I wandered out the back door, I think, then went home to sleep it off. Must have slept for hours because it was nighttime when my mom woke me up with a phone call to check up on me. You all came after that, before I had a chance to check in with Liz. I realized at that moment that I hadn't asked them about Liz, so I tried to correct that. Is she alright? Please tell me something didn't happen. We're investigating that right now, Michelle. Can you describe what that person climbing into the window looked like? Officer Lewinsky asked, her eye contact drilling deep into me. My eyes wandered as if I tried to think of what to say, and that was when Zawinski interrupted my train of thought. Michelle, you said you saw someone. We're gonna need you to be very honest with us because already a lot of your story isn't adding up, he said. The seriousness in his voice was making me more and more nervous. I was trying to remember. It was hard to see them, but I know for sure they were really thin and very tall, just based on how they were crawling into the window, I explained. That wasn't a lie, and came out easier. I hope they noticed, and that it assuaged some of their doubts. So you saw a mysterious person crawling into your neighbor's window and you didn't call the police? Lewinsky questioned. I should have expected such a question. That would have been the sane thing to do, if anything about the situation had even a shred of sanity to be found. I was in a panic. I wasn't thinking clearly. Is Liz okay, or did something happen to her? There was real concern in my voice, despite how I knew Liz was dead. I couldn't keep my nerves in check. They suspected me of her murder, and my lies weren't helping anything. I didn't want them to think Liz was missing. Her husband must have had some false hope, clinging to the idea that she was alive and could be saved at any moment. The more I thought of him, the more distressed I became. Her expression came back in my mind as fresh as if I were there again, those eyes begging me for help. It was all right there. The sound of her blood pooling on the floor, the smell of copper, the intense fear gripping my every molecule. I tightly gripped my hands together in my lap. Thank you for following. What a tension breaker, huh? Welcome to the gremlin pile. Anyway, moving on. Michelle, we need you to be honest with us. I can tell this is very hard for you, but you have to know how strange your story sounds. Good Cop Livingston started, speaking very gently. If you're afraid of something or someone, we can help you. Will you let us help you, Michelle? I was so weak. I wanted to tell them everything. My wide eyes searched them both. I was so desperate for help. I wanted the nightmare to end. Wanted someone to rely on in this. Eddie was my friend, but who could really say how long that would last? How many more people were going to disappear behind a cage of teeth before anyone was even aware he existed? They would never believe me, I told myself. They'd be sure I was insane, or that I was lying to save my own skin. Still, I feel myself crumbling from the pressure. It was taking all of my self-control to keep my mouth shut. Officer Zawinski pulled his chair closer, leaving no room between him and me. He sat in a way I recognized from my interrogation research called the confession pose. Often, police officers would do this because it's in human nature to mimic someone else's posture, especially when you're trying to relate to them. It's one of the many methods that interrogators manipulate their suspects into giving them more information. We know you wrote that letter, Michelle, he said. I knew it was over when I realized what he meant. The room had started to spin around me, so I put a hand to my head to try to steady my thoughts. The words, "There's a monster in town, eating people alive if he decides they're monsters," replayed in my head again and again. Oh my goodness! Also that replayed again and again and again in my head. Thank you for the the subs. I hope you're enjoying the story. Goodness. That is quite a way to break the tension once again. Sheesh. You are. Okay, perfect. All right, we're getting to the thrilling conclusion. Let's get back into it. Where am I? The officers were I felt dizzy and out of it. The officers were speaking with me, but I didn't understand a word they were saying. I managed to mutter before losing consciousness. There's a monster that's eating people where it's dark. I didn't know how much time had passed when I woke up. My eyes had adjusted to the light, and I saw I was back in the holding cell, lying on the bed, with the same dark blanket from before draped over me. I flung it off and onto the floor again, my heart threatening to jump out of my chest. The bright fluorescent light in my cell was on, but struggling. But it was the only light on in the area. If I was thinking clearly, I would have assumed the other lights were off because my cell was the only one that was occupied at the moment. The darkness kept me from having any rational thoughts. They're trying to torture me, my brain had decided. I curled up by the wall and held my knees close to my chest like before. Each time the light in my cell flickered, I let out a soft whimpering sound. Did they not take my phobia seriously, or was this some kind of sick tactic to get me to talk? I couldn't think of another reason why they would have the rest of the area cloaked in shadow with a woman suffering from nyctophobia at the center of it. The weak light made an angry buzzing sound, and I silently begged it to stay on, to hang in there. I sat in that precarious place for what felt like decades. Finally, with a small snapping sound, the light bulb gave up, and I was in the darkness yet again. I screamed immediately and crawled to the door of my cell to pound on the glass. "Help! Please help me!" I pleaded. My voice echoed down the hallway. There was no reply. Not rushing footsteps, not even distant sounds. It was like a purgatory, just for me. I kept screaming and pounding on the door, causing jolts of pain through my fists and into my arms. Tears appeared in my eyes and slid down my face with each passing moment. I didn't care how it happened. I wanted to be free of that terrible place. At some point, my crying and screaming changed. I had started to cry out for Eddie. Eddie, save me, please! And there it was. The distant sound of fireworks. At the time, it was such an odd sound to me, but I hadn't realized that gunfire and fireworks sounded very much the same. My screaming didn't stop. I'd long lost control of my body. The sound of a guttural, drawn-out scream echoed after the gunfire. My screaming continued, and then a light turned on at the end of the hall. And then another, closer to my cell. Eddie, I'm here! I sobbed. Another light, and then another. He was coming to my rescue. I heard more gunfire, then what sounded like a heavy object making a hard impact against a wall. The light in the hallway of my cell was turned on, and I finally felt like I could breathe again between sobs. His thin, corpse-like body came into my view, the yellow of his wrinkled skin made crimson by a bath of fresh blood that dripped from the mouth and his stomach. His blade-like stump glistened in the fluorescent light with even more blood, and there was not a single visible wound on his own body. I felt relief sweep over me as I saw him there, smiling. I pressed my palms against the glass of the cell as the last of my tears dripped from my face and onto the floor. Aren't you Michelle? His familiar voice spoke to me with glee. That smile of his was the most comforting thing to me in that moment. I couldn't help but smile right back. My hero. And that's the story! Da-da-da-da-da! It's done! So, what did you think? Also, Crazy Ghost, you are indeed crazy. That's so many subs. You just got here, my dude. You didn't even wait. You didn't even wait. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You are, oh. I am deceased. I am deceased. I'm dead. Rip Nommle. I lived a good life. It was long, and parts of it were weird, but that's okay. Death has happened, and I'm gonna just roll with it. What the heck? Thank you so much. That's insane. You crazy ghost. You crazy. You're so crazy. With a K. So I take it you like the story then. I wrote it all on my own. It's my own creation. It's my brainchild. It's the child of my brain. How do you like Eddie? Is he a good creature? Is he a good creature? I think he's a good creature. My goal. You wrote it? Yeah, I wrote it. Yeah, I fully wrote it. No cap. That's mine. I wrote that story. My inspiration was that I wanted to make people afraid of something that's not usually, like, a topic of fear in stories. So I wanted to make people not, like, feel unsafe, even in the light. Like, being in the bright, broad daylight. Like, because every time there's, like, a creature or something, they're always cloaked in darkness. They're always, like, hiding away. You can't fully see them. Not Eddie. Eddie will kill you in broad daylight. You will see him fully when he ends your life. And you can do nothing about it. And it will be painful. So yeah, that's why I wanted to make people like uncomfortable about being in the light. Cause he'll only kill you in the light. So you know, if you're in your place and it's dark, and suddenly a light turns on at the end of the house, and then another light, and then another light, and the lights are just turning on closer and closer to your room. Yeah, you might want to hide. That might be Eddie. He might be paying you a visit. I was lost in the story like I was in another world. I very much enjoyed it. Oh, that's... No, I can't. I can't. Not the compliments. Oh gosh. You spoil me and now you're complimenting me. No. Yes, I write. I write things. I'm here to stay forever. Oh my gosh. Thank you. That's really sweet. Well, now I have to write more things. I'm a diehard fan now. Oh no. That was so quick. Well, now I have to like write a sequel and stuff, or like other stories. Now I have to write things. Ah. I didn't know people would like my writing. How was that supposed? How was I supposed to know that would happen? That wasn't the thing that she was writing is an interesting concept to me though. Like the concept of like a person whose job it is to rescue people that have been shot out into space in escape pods. Like that's such a cool concept, isn't it? Like his job, he's like a neutral party, and his job is just to go out and save people in escape pods and bring them back to either their ship or to a nearby planet that's safe. Like that's such a neat concept. Like you never know what's gonna be the reason they're in the escape pod, or you don't even know if what's in the escape pod is like a person to be saved, or if it's what they were trying to get rid of from the spaceship. Like that's such a neat concept. So I might have to write that. That'll be cool. I have a lot of time in like during work hours sometimes to work on stories, so maybe I'll have to do some more. People like them. Yeah. Woo! Can you read all the books I come across? You like the sound of my voice? You like my voice? I wish I could get paid to do audiobooks. That'd be sick. Thank you. Oh, you're showering me in compliments. This is weird. This is weird. I'm not used to the compliments, showering. People now and then will compliment my singing, and I'm like, no. I don't usually sing seriously. I usually sing for jokes. It's supposed to be funny. You're not supposed to think I'm good at singing. You're supposed to laugh. It's supposed to be funny. I need juices. But yeah, most of this stream was my stories that I wrote. Although I don't know if I can consider them stories because a lot of them are true. But this one was just a story because I've never met Eddie, the abomination. I've never met him. Okay, I guess I can unpin the note. Or did it already unpin itself? Note. Where have you gone? Note? Oh, maybe my note unpinned itself. You publish your books. No, I don't. You see, I don't... I feel I have talent in many things. I don't think I'm a talented writer. But I guess you guys disagree with me. I never thought my writing was good enough to be published, so I've never tried. You know? I've been like, I mean, it's okay. Like, I feel like I have an easier time telling stories through, like, art. Like, with comics and stuff. I feel like my vision comes across better with comics. Because, like, I'm... like, I read people's stories, and a lot of the time they'll be, like, really flowery and things. Like, really flowery. And I can't with the flowery. Like, people will be like, the vast red orb dangled in the sky, casting rays of warmth and happiness upon the land, bearing fruit and crops for all to enjoy. And I'm like, the sun rose. You know? I'm just very to the point. The sun rose. There it is. It's making grass grow and junk. It's there. They're like, oh, her green orbs scanned my frame, peering through every nook and cranny of my innermost self. And I'm like, she looked me up and down. Like, I can't with the flowery. I can't. My writing cannot be flowery. Like, I'll do like metaphors and stuff, but like, I can't with the magic and the flowers and the. I can't do it. It causes me pain. If you do, I'll buy one so you can sign it. How kind. How kind. Maybe someday I would like to. I also write music. I want to make an original song someday. I have the chorus all figured out. I just need to figure out the rest. Usually it comes to me in the shower when I'm bathing. I get the best song ideas in the shower. That's one of my goals for streaming, is I want to have my own original song. I'll buy that too. You don't even know if I'm good at singing yet. I could have like the worst singing voice. You'd never know. Wah 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 wah. Sound like Scuttle. Doesn't matter, I'll still get it. I'm gonna do a karaoke stream sometime this month because I reached my ultimate goal, which is 101 followers. So now I have to do a karaoke stream. Yes. It's gonna be an imitation karaoke stream. I'm gonna imitate singers. I'll be there for the karaoke. Karaoke. Okay, good. 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 I shall see you there. The only question I have for you, because I'm streaming later than I normally do. I normally stream 6:30 PST or PDT. This is a late stream for me. So I don't know if our time will match up. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I got your hopes up. I'll stay up late. Okay. You're determined. That's some determination. Oh, I wrote a poem. Do you guys want to hear it? I wrote a poem. Yep. Yes. Okay. I'll read it for you. Okay, so just as a warning, the poem is about suicidal thoughts. Just as a warning. Warn. You're not okay with hearing a poem about suicidal thoughts. Don't listen. Look away. Listen away. Put your headphones aside. Okay. Okay. Here is my poem. He whispers sweetly, sweetly to you, to take his hand, and so you do. His words are gentle, gentle and kind. They slip inside and hold your mind. She knows your name, your troubles, what hurts, her comfort that she kindly asserts. He promises much. She promises too. You need those promises to all come true. But there's a pit inside your heart. You can't stop momentum once it's brought to a start. You're tied to things you'd leave behind. Faces and voices, some cruel and some kind. But those 2 or those 3 or those 4 or more, they cradle your brain as they've all done before. She says you can rest now. He says that it's time. As if it's no choice, but a path once divined. Still, those words are sweet, but that's all they are. Uncountable people they've pushed way too far. Those voices to you from a place you well know. Into the abyss they urge you to go. Sleep now is what they say. If you step off the edge, it will all go away. Your pain will end. I agree that it's true. But you'll only be ending the pain within you. An empty space is what you'll leave. A lifetime of pain for the ones left to grieve. Things left undone that you once loved to do. Joy hides for now, but it's not lost to you. It's hard to hope when they're pulling you in, but try to ignore that voice from within. It says you're worthless. It says they won't cry. And how will you know if they do if you die? If there's one single chance that someone will mourn you, talk to them now. That's what you should do. It whispers sweetly, sweetly, my friend. The voice in your head wants your life at an end. Its words may be gentle, but they are not kind. Tell someone you trust of this pain in your mind. And that's my poem. Ba ba ba. That's my poem. I've never listened to something so hard in my life that I have right now. That was I'm dying again. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad. I'm glad you liked it. I thought it'd be a little too dark to share on stream. But it's also, like, kind of light, you know? You found your treasure. Ah, you're really laying it on thick. I'm just a gremlin. I'm just a silly gremlin. I'm a silly gremlin that likes to stream. Don't even worry about it. I'm just a silly gremlin. I just play games. I just draw. I just write sometimes. I make silly jokes. Most games in the world I have not played before. To think I was going to go to sleep early. Well, well, I'm glad you're here too. It's cool to see. I'm glad you like my stuff. That makes me feel good. Makes me feel good inside. There's gonna be so many people tomorrow that are like, what the heck happened? Why did I get a sub? What happened? I wasn't even there. Most of my friends are asleep right now. Most of the people I know is asleep right now. But I specifically asked for tomorrow off, or I guess technically today. I asked for today off of work so that I could do this because I wanted to do a late night stream. Because my mood is weird at night. It's weird. And it's like, it's Halloween, or it was. It was Halloween. Halloween's my favorite. Halloween's the best. But yeah. Halloween. Halloween. It was meant to be. Yes. Meant to be. Wahahaha. The universe is weird that way. Yeah. I asked my boss, I was like, hey, boss man. I don't want to work the day after Halloween. Because I always do stuff on Halloween, and I stay up really late. So I don't want to do work. I don't want to work the next day. Am I allowed to take the day off? And he's like, that sounds awesome, yes. And I'm like, oh, this man, this man is wonderful. Sometimes I'll make a little project and I'll be like, hey, what do I owe you for the cost of materials? And he'll be like, don't even worry about it. It's a learning expense. And I'm like, oh my gosh. You're like the best boss ever. Or like the time I asked, I'm like, hey, my station is clean. I'm caught up on everything. I asked everyone else if they needed help with anything and they said no. I'm bored. Is there anything you need me to do? And he's like, well, here is a website for online classes. Is there a class here that you want to take? And I'm like, what? He's like, yes. I will pay for whatever class on here you want to take, one class, and you can do it during work hours. I was like, okay, so you're going to pay me to be here and pay for a class for me to learn new things. And he's like, well, yeah, it benefits us both. Because you get paid, and and like we benefit because then you're better at your job. And I'm like, people like this exist? He's so nice. I feel so lucky. I've got such a great job. And it's fun. It's a fun job. And today I dressed up as Ash Ketchum from Pokemon. And people in my workplace were excited about it. They were like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Oh, I'm sad I didn't dress up. And I'm like, oh yes. Everyone must dress up next year. So now we're all going to dress up next year. I'm going to remind people. I'm going to remind them that we have to dress up next year. Last year, I dressed up as a shark. Basically what I did is I had a shark head and I put the shark head on and I had a dorsal fin. So I put that on. So I was a shark all day. It was glorious. That would be me. Phoenix Flyer gifted me a sub, but I never got to thank them. Is that why you're here? You got a sub and you're like, what? Confusion? Phoenix gifts subs a lot. Phoenix is also very generous. Yes, indeed. I am not worthy, but I'm happy. You are plenty worthy. You are plenty. Your luck stat is like maxed. You're worthy of many things. All the things. Head pats. You're worthy of head pats. If I had a head patting emote, I would use it now. But I do not. Maybe someday. I still have to figure out what my other animated emote's gonna be. Ah, you have one! How do people always... head pats! Yay, head pats. Yay, head pats. Yes, good, yes. I accept them readily. I think I've said this on stream before, but every now and then, because I'm not cuddly, I'm not super cuddly in my life. Sometimes I'll have a rare day where I'm really cuddly and whoever's near me will feel very special, because I'll just cuddle with them. But, despite my lack of cuddles, because I'm very bitey, despite my lack of cuddles, I will always accept head pats. And sometimes I'll be like, hey person that I like, I did this thing. This thing is worthy of head pats. And then I'll like angle my head toward them so that I can accept head pats. And then they'll give me head pats. And I'm like, yes. That's how you can tell that you're around good people, is if you very directly mention that you need head pats and they provide them. I'm always affectionate and rarely ever wanting to be alone or not having human contact. Ah, you sound like an extrovert, my friend. Perhaps an extrovert. One who gains energy from being around others. It's a good way to be, but also it kind of sucks, because then with stuff like isolation, it's not a good time. Extrovert with anxiety. No! 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 Luck! No! Oh, that's awful. Oh, no. Oh, that hurts my heart for you. Oh, no. Aw. Luck. Aw. For me, I'm a ambivert. If I'm in a particular situation, I'm very extroverted. But then usually I have to go into my nest. I have to burrow in my nest afterwards and recharge. We as chat are lucky you decided to stream today or ever. I don't think I can imagine a world where you don't stream. You just got here. You just got here. You're already going ham on the affection. You seem like the words of affirmation type. Whoa. Crazy is correct. You all are too much. Too much. I'm just a weird little gremlin. I'm a weird gremlin. Just doing the streaming things. Just the things with the streaming. I must also agree. What is with you people tonight? It's not even a full moon. Where is affection coming from? We're all weird in our own way. Yeah. That's the best way to be, though. It's the best to be weird. Weirdness is good. Weirdness is not boring. Being weird is awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It is good to be weird. I'll do so many strange things at work. Like, I brought something into the lobby where the receptionist is, and I went, and then she looked over at me. And then I walked over to the window and I went, and then I walked back to my area, and then I very loudly went, so she'd hear me. And then I heard her giggling in the lobby. I just do things to make her laugh sometimes. She'll just be chilling out and I'll be like, or I made a bunch of ghosts. I made ghosts for everybody. I needed to make them to test things, so I called them test ghosts. I made a bunch of ghosts, and then I handed them out to everybody. And I would switch out what type of ghosts I would make sometimes, and then I'd bring out more, and then someone came to me later and they're like, hey, you make more of those ghosts? And I'm like, yeah. They're awesome, right? And they're like, yeah. So then I made a bunch of them, and then they had like 22 ghosts. It was good. No matter how many you have with you around you, they are happy to have you as you are happy to have them. Hope the continuation of your stream goes amazingly. Well, I've already completed some of my goals as a streamer. I have completed 101 followers. That was one of the big goals. I didn't think I'd get there, but here I am. I've completed Final Fantasy VII, which was another goal. I beat that. And have a wholesome, fun community. I have that. So that's 3 things that I've accomplished. I feel very... Oh, head pats again. Ah, head pats. Yes. Yes. Head pats. I bet being your friend in real life is a new experience every day. It certainly is. I said this on stream before, but I just approached, like in my previous work, I would just approach people and be like coworkers and be like, hey, are you a Lazard? And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, are you a Lazard? And then they're like, yes, I'm a Lazard. I'm like, okay. Because they were already used to my shenanigans. They're like, yes, I am a Lazard. I'm like, okay, good. And then I went to the next, are you a Lazard? And they're like, a Lazard? It's like, yes. Are you a Lazard? It's like, yeah, I'm a Lazard. It's like, cool, cool, good. That's 3 Lazards. Because I'm a Lazard and him over there is a Lazard and you're a Lazard. Okay. And then I went to the next, it's like, are you a Lazard? And they're like, they didn't even ask for me to clarify. They're like, no, I am a flying, fire-breathing Lazard. And I'm like, oh, a rare Lazard. And then I went to the next coworker. I'm like, hey, are you a Lazard? And he's like, no. And I'm like, I mean, now you will be. And then I just like shuffled off. And then I've asked like everyone in my life systematically, I'm like, are you a Lazard? And like a few of them are like, what's a Lazard? And those are the ones that I'm like, you will be. But like most of the time they're like, yeah, I'm a Lazard. Just because they know. They just know. I don't have to explain myself. They just know. Wish there were more people like you. Life would be so much fun. When I lived with roommates before, because I don't live with roommates now, what I would do is I would announce that I was home by making raptor sounds down the stairs. I'd be like, rah, rah. And they'd be like, oh, Nommle's home. Sometimes they'd be pterodactyl screeches, but usually they'd be raptor noises. And then eventually, my housemates would announce to me that they were home by also making raptor noises. So then it was just a thing we did. We just make raptor noises. I used to practice my raptor noises in Japanese class. And my evil laugh. I would practice both of those. Because I'd get everything done fast, so then I'd just have nothing to do. So I'd just start practicing noises in the back of the class. What I'm saying is I'm very strange. I'm very odd. I'm like so random, lol XD. I do use XD unironically. I am one of those people. Cringe culture is dead. Anyone that cringes is no cringing, not allowed. No cringe, no. Unless like pain cringes are fine. Pain cringes make the pain less. Then you can cringe. Cringing is allowed in that case. Ugh. Alright, it's 3 a.m. I've been streaming for 3 hours. Which is not that long, but it's long when it's like 3 a.m. Oh my gosh. Oh, they're at it again. Oh snap. Oh my gosh. How do you have this much disposable income? Are you secretly a millionaire? Are you secretly loaded? You just want everyone to be Nommsters? You're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna pop in here and compliment you endlessly and give you gifts and I'm getting suspicious. I'm side-eyeing you now. It's like, what do you want? What do you want? There's no way you're being this nice. No way. It's like, what do you want? What do you want? This is when the suspicion happens. It's like every time I reach a milestone on like Zitter or something or here, I'm like, who are you people? Why are you here? Are you okay? Like, why are you here? Are you alright? Are you good? Have you been helped? And then they're usually like, you're great, we love you. And I'm like, ah. Oh my gosh. Ah. Okay. I'm a giver. Evidently. I feel special. I feel all special. Oh, geez. 25. That's madness. 25. Oh my gosh. 25. That is the most subs I've ever had at a given time. Wait. So I'm at 40. Oh, I'm at 41. Holy gosh darn. Next level. For real, for real. I'm planning on saving all the money that I make from streaming to put back into streaming. Because I have a well-paying job. Like a full-time job. So I don't need to, like, live off of streaming. Streaming is a hobby. So I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save all the revenue I get from streaming so I can put into more streaming things. More fun things. Yes. Yes. I can pay my artist. My artist, whom is me. I am my artist. Except for the background. This background is not... I didn't draw this. Oh my gosh. Welcome to the Gremlin Pile. Wait. That name is suspicious. Is that a bot? Is that a bot? Suspicious. I'll have to look into this person. Are you a bot? Okay, this person created an account on the 29th. They might be a bot. This will be my first bot follower. Let's go. Okay, I might need to block this person. Yeah, they seem bottish. Goodbye. I'm sorry if you were a real person. You had a bot name. It's not my bad. Your name was Zah. Zah. I will not have robots following me. Unless they're cool, interactive robots with spinny arms. No mercy. No, no bots allowed. That's my first possible bot. First possible. If you're not a bot, then reach out to me on Twitter and let me know. And then I will unblock you. Hope you didn't mind me peeking, but I do mod for quite a few. I think I've got 2 mods right now. I'm good for now. But thank you for your offer. Very kind. Very kind indeed. And you seem like an upstanding individual. You do have a few viewer bots. Oh, I do? Dang it. Get out of here, viewer bots. They usually you should usually tell if they're viewer bots based on the fact that they're always here before the stream even starts. What's the point of viewer bots? Like, what's the point? I don't get it. Like, I didn't ask for this. Why are they here? What's their point? Who does these things? Are they the type that try to post links and stuff? Is that why they don't annoy me? Because they don't... If you like, I can send a screenshot of the ones or name them. I'm on Mix It Up right now, and I think I can see them. Viewer bots, viewer bots. They're on like 24/7 and have music on or different beds. It's always so nerve-wracking because it's like, you actually a bot or are you a person? Ah, are you a real person? I think. Whoa. Okay, this person has been live on this platform for 7 years. Is that any indication? I need to learn more about things. I seriously do. I'm so green. I haven't even been streaming for a year. I'll be my anniversary, my streamiversary will be on April 13th. Streamiversary. Some bot accounts are accounts that were hacked or taken. Oh. Oh my. Oh my. I'm learning so many things. Like, I'm setting up a Discord server There's so much that goes into Discord servers. So much. Like, what? How do I... It's like, you have to remove all these permissions from people. Sorry to put in distraught. Sorry to just make you distraught, is what I'm assuming you mean. It's all good. It's all good. I'm just learning things. Bots are the reason, and bots and hate raiders are the reason why I've blocked links in the chat. Because as much as I want people to be able to share links, I don't want bots to share website links or anything like that. You are a friend of Miho, so I only want to help however I can. I've got the Miho friendship buff. That guy is so great. I like him a lot. I want to collaborate with him more and such. And we will. Because we're gonna. Because he's great. He's fun. He's talented. And I like him a lot. A Discord, you say? Also, hello, Mayo. Welcome. Yes. Yes, Konokara. I'm gonna make a Discord. I'm in the process of making it. But I need to do more research because it's a lot more complicated than I thought it was. Like, there's just things that I thought were inherently part of Discord servers, but no, most of them are extensions. And I'm like, do I need that? And it's like, you need mods for Discords. It's like, what? You have to moderate it, keep the creepos out. It's like, this is stressful. It's very stressful. Yeah. I don't know how to do the things. Way better to be safe than sorry, yeah. Absolutely. Especially in these now times. In the now times. Call dibs on first group of people that joined the Discord. Wanted to say your performance was fantastically hilarious and talented. What performance? The Nightmare Before Christmas at home? Which is what I'm affectionately calling it. Mom, can we watch Nightmare Before Christmas? We have Nightmare Before Christmas at home. And then it's just me with badly drawn puppets talking for an hour and 16 minutes. I did my best. I might do one of Gremlins. I'm not decided yet. It would be very fitting. It'd be for Christmas. So I have like a few months. So you are an artist. Yes. Yes, I am. I'll show you my room and then... Here we go. To the room. Whoosh! This is mine. I made all of this. Except for the posters and the hand-drawn images back there. I didn't make those. But I made the poster back there. I made all this. All of it. I mean, oh, it's my real bedroom. Oh. It was a masterpiece. Well, thank you for your generousness as well, Mayo. You goose. You silly goose. My stream stuff is for free. It's free. It's free. No admission required. Just be here. And don't be awful. Which none of you are, so you're fine. Very nice, haha. This is it when it's clean. It's normally not this clean. This is a lie. You did not make your bed. Yeah, you're right. Do you sell drawings? No, I don't. I do not. Commissions are stressful. I've sold drawings in the past, but they're stressful. Commissions are stressful. So I don't do them. It gives me the stress. Oh, so many nappy guys. I should be one of those. I'm tired. Ugh. I'm normally asleep by now. It's a weekday. I'd normally be working. I sub to a lot of people. You sure do. You got all these emotes. Dang. It's cool that you support the people you watch, though. That's really cool. That's very, very cool indeed. Ow! Rude! What did I do to deserve that, Mayo? The fact that my bed is made when it probably isn't? Because it's absolutely not. Because my bed is never made. Okay, okay. Here. I'll show you the truth. That's the truth. The bed is not made. Ah, but booped. He booped the snoot. They booped the snoot. Normally when people boop the snoot, I try to bite you. But you did it too fast. I didn't even notice it. I try to bite. I dabble in many communities and love meat and peeps. I just trust myself thin sometimes. Oh yeah, I feel that. As you may know, I have... Word of the day. The word of the day. Well, the word of the day is contemporary. That is the word of the day. I used to make a word of the day at my old work. Messy bed? Now I feel at home. The bed is messy. Also, I know I'm supposed to have done laundry, but the laundry area has been occupied. So I was able to clean my bedding, but I have not been able to clean my clothing yet. But I will. I promise. And when I make promises, I keep them. Always. I always keep my promises. Always. Unless I'm dead. So I will do the laundry. Just, I gotta wait for the other people to be done with the laundry machine. But yeah, I do that too sometimes. Like, because like I was saying, I have friends in real life. Some of them are in chat sometimes. And, I can't just spend time with all of them all the time. I have to plan my life out. So that's why I only stream like 3 days a week at most, because I have work, and then I have projects I want to work on, and then I also have friends that I want to spend time with, and my family members as well. I usually spend Wednesdays with my family, because we don't live together, but we're in the same town. And I love them. They used to be in the video game with me, but obviously I took them out, so now we're all in the same town. Yes. Though most of my friends here are not from. Beezy Nommle. Beezy Nommle. Just don't call me Normie. Someone else called me Normie in another chat. They're like, I'm gonna call you Normie from now on. And I'm like, okay, then I'm gonna call you Rainbow Dash. Because their name had Dash in it. So now every time I come in the chat, they're like, hi Normie. And I'm like, hi Rainbow Dash. I can dish it out and take it. Come at me, bro. I got a snake tongue. I'll get ya. I don't actually have a snake tongue. That is not a gremlin quality. Ugh, every time I go to the store for groceries, I pick up white cranberry juice. And every single time I get one, I'm like, why do I get this stuff every time? It's not my favorite drink. And then it's gone. Like, the whole bottle is gone within a week. So, yeah, apparently I do like it. I'm just weird about it. Like, why do I always forget that I like it? It's always gone. I always drink it, like, first. You get people that you can poke at each other like that, and it's just fun. Yeah! I love giving people a gentle hard time. Gentle hard time. Gentle. Like, I kept vaguely bringing up jars in Miho's stream. And he's like, stop. I'm like, no. It's like, okay, I'll stop talking about jars for now. And then I brought them up later. Those are your true friends, yeah. I have many a friend. Many a friend. The small tough love, yeah. I just make sure that they know that it's tough love. I remember one time I said, like, you never see me to a friend. And then I was like, I'm not, that wasn't me being accusatory. I also never see you. Like, we need to be better about that. Like, I'm not accusing you of anything. And they're like, thank you for specifying. It's like, yeah, no worries. Sometimes I say things and I don't realize how bad they sound, and then I'm like, oh no. So then I go and seek that person out. I'm like, hey, this thing I said, I meant it this way. I'm sorry if it sounded this way. It's not your bad. Don't worry about it. Like at work, I'll be like, I'll sound snappy, and then I'll go to the person like immediately after and be like, hey, I'm so sorry I sounded snappy. That was not my intention. I'm tired, and I wasn't mad at you. My tone of voice was just, I just didn't do the right tone of voice. And then they're like, oh no worries. I didn't think you were snappy. It's like, oh, thank goodness. I just gotta be sure. It's better to ask or to like check. Like, are we good? Are we cool? It's like, yeah, we're cool. It's like, okay, good. Huh. And I'll be like, hey, if ever I say anything that you think is weird or that you want clarification on or that makes you upset, please always come to me and let me know, because I want to make those feelings not be there. No sadness. We clear up things immediately. I'm always scared I sound sarcastic or smart mouth. Oh no. Some people have those voices though, like where their tone is flat or like their expression is like resting biatch face. Like you can't help it. So you have to be like, by the way, like you'll say like, good job. And you'll be like, okay, no, like, I mean good job. That was not sarcasm. I mean good job. It's like, I'm not being sarcastic. I'm complimenting you genuinely. It's like, okay. Sometimes it's good to clarify. Especially through text. Oh my gosh. I have had the most misunderstandings through text conversations. Oh. Like, I'll be like, someone will say something, I'll be like, KK. Just write KK. And I'll be like, to clarify, I'm happy you said that, and I'm speaking in the affirmative. Like, I'm not making a short KK reply because I'm uninterested, or like text is the worst. Oh, I've had so many misunderstandings. Or like I come on too strong or something. Or like I get confused. Oh, like this one time, someone said to me, they're like, or no, someone had rules. They're like, you can post in here, if you want to be part of this commission thing. And I'm like, okay. So I posted in there, and then I also posted a note being like, hey, I think your art's really nice, blah blah blah. And then I saw that they were deleting posts because they picked the people that were going to get commissions. So they deleted my post that was saying that I wanted a commission. So I was like, okay. And then I read their rules, and it said, like, don't post extraneous things. So I was like, oh, don't post extraneous things. Okay, so I should probably get rid of my other post then. And then I saw it also said, don't delete your post. And I'm like, oh, okay, so should I not delete the other post? Or should I? It's like, well, okay, they don't want extraneous things. So I should delete it. Because it's extraneous, and it's not related to the commission. So I should delete it. Right? So then I deleted it. And then they blocked me. And I was like, oh, that was the wrong thing to do. Oh, okay. Oh. And then I felt bad because they banned me. I was like, oh. Oh no. That was the wrong thing to do. And then, because I'm Canadian, I was like, I have to apologize to them. I have to apologize because I probably made them feel upset. Like maybe they thought I was retracting my compliments, which is not what I was doing. I was trying to get rid of my extraneous message. So I was like, well, I can't reach out to them because they blocked me. He's like, oh, they have a Ko-fi. It's like, okay, I'll apologize via their Ko-fi. So then I sent a message on their Ko-fi with a donation, and I'm like, hey, I'm sorry about that. I wasn't meaning to take it back. Like, stuff like that. And then they turned off their Ko-fi after that. And I'm like, oh no. Now I seem like a weird stalker. Oh no. Oh no. I was like, oh no. Oh. It went from bad to worse. They felt the need to turn off their Ko-fi. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm gonna never interact with you again in any form. I'm going to look up your other platforms so I can block you, so I don't accidentally do anything creepy. And I did. So now, there's no way that I will accidentally run into them unless they changed accounts, because I was like, oh, I'm a weirdo, I'm a creep. Oh, okay, my bad. So yeah, that's what text can do. Their loss that they banned you because they'll never know you for who you are. And they never will. But that's how it is sometimes. You had good intentions. Yeah, I suppose. I think the Ko-fi was a step too far. I should have just accepted the block and moved on with my life rather than like, oh hey, sorry, just wanted to apologize. Like I should have held back my Canadianness just a little bit. I have said something so bad that like even talking about it legitimately makes me cry. And it was not meant to be bad at all. And it came out so bad that just explaining what happened makes me cry. And I don't cry easily. I just feel so bad. I just feel so bad about what I said and how it came across and how the person took it and how it must have seemed that like I'll cry. So I try not to think about it. And like in the corner of my mind I'm like I saw the person I said it to and like she was being so nice to me and I almost broke down right then and there. I'm like it's like and my mom's like, "Oh, it's fine." Like she probably forgives you and I'm like that's not the point. I mean, it just causes me pain. I've done something similar. Only defending myself did I make it worse. Yeah. I feel like everyone's experienced something like that, where you say something and then you continue to say things and it just gets worse, despite you not meaning for it to be bad. My friend had to tell me to just let it go. Can't always make everyone happy, I understand. Yeah. That's just how it is sometimes. And sometimes people just will not like you, and that's fine. They just won't. Some people just don't jive together. Like, someone once thought that I was dating one of my friends in high school, and because of their jealousy about that, they hated me for a very long time. And then they met me, and like we talked, and they're like, "Oh, you're not awful. And oh, you're not even dating that person." And I'm like, "What? You thought we were dating?" Like, well, you walk home together every day. It's like, yeah, we're friends, and we live in the same, like, area. So, of course, we walk home together all the time. Like, we're not dating. And then they're like, "Oh, okay." And then later on, they were like, "Hey, I used to hate you." And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "I used to hate you because I thought you were dating this person I was interested in." And I'm like, "Oh, you used to hate me because of that?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up." Self-forgiveness can be hard to give, or forgiveness in general, but you do your best and move forward at your pace. I think the worst part about, like, the thing that I said that messes me up about is, like, I can't even explain it away, because, like, in my mind, it makes perfect sense. And, like, there's nothing malicious behind it, in the slightest. But from anyone's outside perspective, no. Like, from an outside perspective, I am a garbage human. And that thing I said was the worst thing I could have said. Like, what the heck? Like, me being like, "Oh, here's this innocent thing I'm saying," and then them being like, "How dare you?" And I'm like, "Oh, God, how could I have said that and not have realized? And I can't even explain this. Oh my." But yeah, so I die a little inside every time I think about that. So let's stop thinking about it. Funny enough, some of my online friends I used to dislike, so it's such funny irony. I'll never dislike you. Ah, we'll see about that. I'm very bitey. I may bite you too hard, and then you'll rethink your decision. Okay, for reals now. I'm gonna go to bed. It's 3:30 a.m. I'm having so much fun talking about random life experiences and misunderstandings. This went from like a horror reading stream to like social anxiety horror. Which is often worse, because it's so real. Get some good resties, though, Nami. I shall. So remember, you're stuck with me. Welcome to the gremlin pile, crazy ghost. Keep being your crazy self. You're always welcome here. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes. Alright. 'Tis time for the beds. 'Tis time. Good night, my friends. Wait. Is there anyone I can raid? There's probably no one that I watch that's raidable right now. There is one person, but I kind of don't want to... I kind of don't want to raid. I kind of just want to sleep, so I'm gonna... Just made a core memory. Nommle will remember that. Crazy Ghost will remember that. Alright. Good night, everybody. Good night. Oh, ad. Good night.